Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Glad to have you with us. We got a fun one lined up today. We've made it a good effort. When I say we, I mean James has put in a nice little guest list today. Gordy Chiesa is going to join us. Jonathan Tavernari for some Red and Blue. Sean Mooney and Jeff Schwartz all on the show today. And that's not all. Also, Matt Farrell, the CEO of U.S. Figure Skating. What? Yeah, we'll talk some Olympics, but also the U.S. has a championship week coming to the Maverick Center March 4th through 7th. So we'll talk a little Olympic scandal, maybe. See if I can get some inflammatory remarks from him. Matt Farrell. That is a jam-packed guest list today. It's an interesting day in professional sports also. NFL franchise tag list has to be out today. Who are you going to franchise tag? Are you going to franchise tag anybody? There were some conversations about whether or not Devin Lloyd with the Jacksonville Jaguars could potentially be franchise tagged. I actually wish he was franchise tagged because it would be very lucrative for him. I know that players don't like it because it's a single-year extension. But the rules are that you have to you have to get paid more, basically. The way that your salary is figured out is you get tagged and paid a one-year tender based on the top 10 salaries at your position. And for linebackers, I'm actually amazed that this hasn't been addressed by the league, and maybe it will be in the next collective bargaining agreement, but that outside linebackers, rush ends, edge defenders, pass rushers, those outside linebackers are lumped into the same linebacker positionally, the same linebacker position group as like an off-ball middle linebacker as a Devin Lloyd. He's a second-team All-Pro this year, had a great season, but the franchise tag for a linebacker is going to be about $28 million because of all those pass rushers, and Jacksonville doesn't want to pay Devin Lloyd $28 million. No off-ball linebacker really makes that kind of money, or it's incredibly rare for off-ball linebackers to make that kind of money in the NFL. So the bad news is he probably won't get $28 million. The good news is it looks like the team does want to, as an alternative, create a long-term extension with Devin Lloyd. And even that is probably going to bring him anywhere from $18 to $22-ish million average annual value on a contract. And so we always love to see the locals get paid in the NFL. Franchise tag has to be put on a player or not by the end of our show today. That is the deadline. 2 o'clock Mountain Time, 4 o'clock Eastern today is the NFL franchise tag deadline. And Kenneth Walker, Seattle Seahawks running back, was in the conversation to be franchised. It looks like that is not going to happen, which means he will come off a Super Bowl winning year with unrestricted free agency and teams assessing how much they want to invest in somebody like Kenneth Walker. So as the NFL offseason continues, and there is no offseason for the NFL because it is the most dominant of all of our sports here in the United States of America, you'll get a couple more of those storylines dropping into the show today. We'll get to a good conversation with Gordy Chiesa because there are always good conversations with Gordy Chiesa, but we will talk more probably about Keontae George today than I have all season long. Keontae George is right now, by design, having to do it a little bit by himself for the Utah Jazz. And you saw, almost in a comical sense, you saw him boxing out Joker last night, getting all the way back into the knees of arguably the best player in the league. Ended up getting pancaked because of it. But Keontae George, in a spirited effort for the Utah Jazz, ended up with a really nice stat line last night, a pretty solid game against a team that is in championship contention in a way that the Jazz hope that someday they will be again. 128-125, your final score. Keontae George, 36 points on 22 shots, 4 of 5 from the stripe. And again, this is without Lauri Markkanen. This is without Nurk. This is without Walker Kessler. This is without a bunch of the guys that could make your job a lot easier. My question about Keontae George, and I should have put this on a Twitter poll, I guess. I did put one question out there related to another story we're going to get to today. The World Cup tickets that are at first selling like hotcakes and they're so sold out that you can't afford them are now like, oh, wait, people can't afford this. So now the tickets are available because nobody can afford to pay for the dang tickets that the FIFA World Cup has released for the North American Games. If money is no object, or it's just a fun hypothetical, if money's no object, travel, accommodation, all of it, you just don't have to worry about that. You get to attend one live sporting event, and that is it. No more. You're done. What are you watching? A lot of people are going to say World Cup final. For me, if the San Francisco 49ers were going to be playing in a Super Bowl that I was incredibly confident that they would win, or in this hypothetical genie in a lamp scenario, maybe I get a guarantee that the San Francisco 49ers, I get to go be in person and watch them win a Super Bowl. I probably would put that on the top of my list. I think someday we're going to get a chance to see the Utah Mammoth in a Stanley Cup series. So I won't put that one there because that one's kind of realistic. At Real OC Sports, 877-353-0700 if you just want to have a little bit of fun with that. But back to Keontae George. He's 22 years old. All right? He has worked his way into being a player. 24 points a night in the NBA. 6.4 assists in the NBA. He's a top 25 guard right now from those scoring and assist totals. Well, he's a top 25 player. He's a top 10 guard with those point totals. And he is a pleasant surprise that I think there were a small contingent of supporters at the very beginning of his Jazz career that were like, all right, this guy's really going to be something. And the rest of us, it's kind of taken some time to grow into our confidence that Keontae George is a part of the core, a definitive part of the Utah Jazz core moving forward. I'm trying to find his equivalent. I'm trying to find something to compare him to in Utah Jazz history. Do we think that Keontae George, at 22 years of age, is going to play himself into the same conversation that we put Donovan Mitchell in before he left? It's been kind of Lauri Markkanen's team, but it's been Lauri Markkanen's bad team. When it's a good team, is it going to be Keontae George's good team? Are we going to talk about them as a dynamic duo? Are we going to leave both of them out because Ace Bailey and A.J. DeBonsa are the thing that really push you forward? Gordy's going to help with this, but I'm having a hard time quantifying or finding a rough equivalent for Keontae George. Darren Williams was a multiple-time perennial all-star in the conversation for best in the league at his position. He was a much higher draft pick. He was an Olympian. He's a gold medalist. He's a perennial all-star over and over again. He was talked about as the best at that position in the league. The debate when Darren Williams was healthy was it him or Chris Paul. There is no debate, to my awareness, that involves Keontae George. And I don't mean that to be insulting to Keontae George. I just don't know that nationally there is an awareness and a conversation about him at all. And that could be a good thing for the Utah Jazz right now. A little bit of a dark horse, let him sneak up on people. It won't last forever. But, like Donovan Mitchell got his own shoe pretty quickly after he started to emerge as a star. Keontae is 22. Do you know how old James Peterson, who's behind the glass today, do you know how old Donovan Mitchell was when he made his first All-Star game?
He was 22, right?
He's
21?
actually 23.
Or is he 23? He was his third year. Took him 3 years to do it. Yeah.
And, Keontae, he was drafted in the first round in 2023. So I think the best possible equivalent for Keontae is a guy like Donovan. And I'm talking about from the star caliber standpoint, not that they're the exact same type of player, but 877-353-0700 at Real OC Sports if you want to participate on social media instead of on the text line. Is there a Jazz equivalent of Keontae George or what Keontae George has grown into? You're not putting him in Darren Williams category yet. You're not putting him in Donovan Mitchell's category yet. Maybe there's somebody else that you kind of maybe he's your Brian Russell of this team. Different player, different team, different style, but a clear number 4 really at his best on the team. Is that where you think Keontae's future is with this Utah Jazz team? I'm trying to figure out where he fits in, and it's a conversation that has happened all year long. But we saw last night when he's kind of leading the charge on an otherwise underwhelming and deliberately decimated roster against a really good team in the Denver Nuggets, and he gave you 36 points in 30 minutes, snagged a couple of rebounds, 4 of 9 from beyond the arc. Like that, if you take the name out of that and you put that stat line in for any top guard in the NBA against the Denver Nuggets, people are going to be like, yeah, good. That's a solid game. A losing effort, that stinks. Maybe turn the ball over a few too many times. Don't like to see that. He had 4 of those. But he also had 4 steals, so he's a net neutral on that, right? If you erase the name and the number and the team, and you say this player in the backcourt did this against the Denver Nuggets, it's anybody's guess. That's a hell of a game against the Denver Nuggets. And his averages this year, it's not just he goes, oh, look at me. I have one great game, and then I'm going to disappear for a while. When he's healthy, Keontae George is a player in today's NBA. But we are projecting the Utah Jazz out, not for this year, not even probably for next year. We're projecting them out for that 28 season. What are they going to be, and what is he going to be on that team? Because heading into this 2025-2026 campaign, there was no definitive commitment that he would be part of whatever future the Jazz have envisioned at all. Now that debate is dead. It's Lowry for now. It's Keontae. It's Ace Bailey. We think it's Walker Kessler. This is the young core, but where in the young core does Keontae fit? He's not player number 1. Is he 2? Is he 3? Is he 4? Is he going to be a surprise Donovan Mitchell where you're just like, oh, wow. He actually is number 1. He actually is now heading into next year when he turns 23. He's now on that same pace. We didn't expect it from Donovan. We haven't expected it yet from Keontae. I need a more seasoned, a weather eye, and a better prognosticator of NBA success and growth and development to tell me what his true place is. And by the way, we did this already with Lauri Markkanen when he was an all-star. Well, if you're a playoff team, is Lauri Markkanen a number 1 on a playoff team? Is he a number 2 on a playoff team? Is he a number 3 on a playoff team? All the other interested parties, the Spurs, the Warriors, all these other teams that were like, hey, we'd like to talk to you about Lauri Markkanen. They weren't planning on bringing him in to be a 1. I don't think they're bringing him in to be a 2. Most people are like, we did this with Lauri. Okay, that's in an ideal world. He's an awesome player. He's that fringe all-star level guy. Those fringe all-star level guys, you don't want to be your best guy. You don't want to be your number 1. You want those guys to be your number 2, your number 3. You have a superstar who's your number 1. I mean, the Spurs have this right now. Victor Wembanyama is the obvious number 1, the driver of all things. But De'Aaron Fox and Steph Castle, they have filled into those roles nicely, and suddenly the San Antonio Spurs are not just playoff team, they're like real contenders in the West. Ahead of schedule. So I get it. It's an unfair question. We're a little bit ahead of our own selves here. It's going to be heavily predicated on this Jazz draft lottery and what pick they get and the player that pick becomes.
I'm fairly certain where he's going to end up.
You fairly certain where Keontae's going to end up?
Yeah. He'll be the Mike Conley.
Ah, okay.
He's the lead guard. He'll be your second or third leading scorer, maybe sometimes fourth leading scorer if Ace Bailey ends up fulfilling his immense potential that we've seen. He had a nice game last night too, by the way. Not quite as good as Keontae George, but a nice game. So yeah, I think he'll be the Mike Conley. As far as comparing him back, the original comparison you tried to make was in the late '90s finals teams. He's more like the Jeff Hornacek than the Brian Russell, just because he handles the ball a lot more. His role, Hornacek was not the lead guard, obviously, but Stockton's he's one of your stars, Hall of Famers, so he's not Stockton, right? Yeah, I would say he's more of the Hornacek than the Brian Russell. That Jazz team didn't really have a fourth scoring option. The reason why, and it's not a great fit with that team, trying to compare Keontae to one of those guys on that team, it's because they had 2-3 guys that they actually ran plays for. Those were Stockton, Malone, Hornacek. And then everyone else just kind of got the scraps, right?
Yeah.
And Keontae is not I get the scraps guy. He's a lead guard that starts plays, let alone gets plays run for him. So
I don't think you're wrong, right? And now this begs a question that is bigger than basketball, bigger than the Utah Jazz, right? So you're Keontae George, or fill in whatever player you want to fill in, right? You start to prove to your franchise, your teammates, your coaches, that you are better than they thought you were. That you are good enough to be a primary scoring driver, at least on an NBA team. Now, a bad NBA team, and I fully acknowledge that changes when a team is good versus when a team is bad. Every team's got to have a leading scorer, right? Even the worst teams have a guy who's the best of the worst, right? And I'm not trying to disparage Keontae's accomplishments here, but he has developed himself. He's become a much better player. He has started to shoulder more of a scoring load from a sort of a natural standpoint in the beginning of the season when everyone was available, and now from a forced standpoint because he's the only one available. But regardless of the reasons for that, you're an individual playing a team game, certainly. You're an individual who's 22 years old in the NBA, and you're saying, man, I could be a top 20 scorer in this league if you let me be a top 20 scorer in this league. And then in an ideal scenario, your franchise, your team comes to you and says, but we don't want you to be that. That can be difficult. That can be problematic. And that is something that this front office and, more importantly, this coaching staff and roster are going to have to manage if that is, and I agree with you, I think it is, if that is the true vision for Keontae George.
Yeah, at the end of last season, I was thinking Keontae George is going to be a long-term sixth man in the NBA. He's got that score in bunches type mentality. He's definitely aggressive and a score first type mentality. This year, he's shown that, and one of the big flaws of his game is he just turned the ball over too much, and he was not efficient enough as a shooter. This year, he's corrected those things big time. He's still not, the guy you're going to rely on to be a perimeter stopper on defense, but he's shown a lot more effort this year than he did in his first 3 years, which also is a reason why, okay, this guy's graduated from probably a career sixth man at best to, hey, he's a starting guard. He's a starting lead guard, at least on this Jazz team, even when they're going to be good. So I think that certainly bodes well. As far as he maybe gets 1 or 2 All-Star appearances in his career. Maybe he exceeds that. Right now, I'm not ready to say he's going to be this perennial All-Star, but he's certainly shown a lot of strides and graduated to, hey, this guy can be a key player on a really good team.
And again, he's 22 years old, so there is the potential for him to take a couple more leaps forward realistically.
Absolutely.
Especially with those things that you're talking about is, turnovers, defensive pressure, the ability to stay in front of guys, whatever. And I get it, especially for point guards. Points are not the be-all, end-all, right?
It's become more of that. There's not really any true, I'm just going to set other people up point guard in the league anymore as starters. So it has become more important for point guards like Keontae George to be able to score a ton, but it's still not. That guy doesn't have to be your leading scorer at that position.
If you're Keontae George, it's going to be the ultimate test case of how culture and game plan and results from a team standpoint are supposed to matter more if you're a professional athlete. And they usually find ways in the Jazz uniform. They usually find ways to get guys to accept the role that they're given. But Keontae George right now is the leading scorer for the Utah Jazz. He's the 17th leading scorer in the NBA, and you're looking at that and you're going, well, yeah, like if your best scorer is the 17th best in the league, it's not great for you. Keontae George right now scores more points a game than Victor Wembanyama does. He scores more per game than LeBron James does. He scores more points per game than Paolo Banchero does. He's scoring more points a game than Zion Williamson and some guys that are like supposed to be the lead straw that stirs the drink. He's scoring more points than Cooper Flagg. Obviously, Flagg is a rookie. The names above him on the scoring list are all guys that you're like, oh, yeah, Luka, SGA, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, Joker, Donovan Mitchell, the aforementioned, Kawhi Leonard, Jalen Brunson, Kevin Durant, Jamal Murray, Cade Cunningham, Devin Booker, James Harden, Michael Porter Jr., Denny Avdija.
Yeah, there's like 2 guys on there that you'd be surprised, and it's the last 2 that you named, Michael Porter Jr. and Denny Avdija. As good as those guys are, that you wouldn't be surprised. You're a little bit surprised that they're at that kind of score this year. And Keontae is probably a surprise to everyone outside of this market that he's right there.
All these other guys are all-stars. And by the way, it's not just people outside of this market. Like, people in this market are like, wow, Keontae George is that kind of a score. And in an ideal world, if we're looking into our Utah Jazz basketball-shaped crystal ball, and we're saying, in a perfect world, though, that's not the role you're going to fill on this team. Yeah. In a perfect world, our leading scorer is Ace Bailey, or
Lowry,
AJ DeBonsa, or perhaps Lowry. In a perfect world, we want you to be the Jeff Hornacek of this team, and that is something that we don't have to talk about today, but we are. It's going to be an issue that the team has to address when they are healthy and they're gunning for it, because that is where the kumbayas and the feel-goods and all that stuff starts to rattle and shake apart. The acceptance of roles, the communication, the team chemistry that Donovan and Rudy had for a certain time and then they didn't, all of that is affected by stuff like this, right? By availability, by lack of availability. And if you're Keontae George right now, he seems like just great teammate, great dude, great player, great everything, right? If he's in a locker room next year with Ace, Lowry, Walker's back,
whoever the first round pick ends up being, knock on wood.
First round pick, number 3 overall, whoever that is, right? Cam Boozer, whatever.
Yeah.
Is he going to say, are they all going to say, not just him, but is he going to say, all right, I had my foot on the gas pedal all last year, and I proved to you how good I can be in this league, And now you're telling me to put a governor chip back on that. Could be an issue.
Yeah, is he going to be able to accept that?
And by the way, I'm using him as the example because of the spectacular game he had last night and ultimately what you wanted, a losing effort against a really good team. It was awesome to watch, though. He's fun to watch. He's a guy that you could start seeing more jerseys be sold. He's a guy, like you said, who could make a couple all-star appearances. But the plan for him is not to be that dude, not to be the driving force for this franchise. Is he going to accept it? And the same question you have to ask it for every Utah football player, every BYU football player, everyone on this Utah Mammoth hockey team. Although with hockey, because everyone gets minutes.
Yeah, it's a lot more evenly spread.
It's just the nature of the game is just that, like, well, all right, well, you're going to skate.
You skate as hard as you can for 90 seconds, and you're going to come off the ice.
You're going to go 60 to 90 seconds at a time.
It was amazing.
You're going to do it the same way everyone else does it. If you want to move up to the top line, great. That's wonderful for me.
It's amazing to hear guys like Eddie Olczyk, who was on the Olympic hockey broadcasts, and some of the other great color analysts around the league, nationally and locally. It's amazing to hear them say, after like 2 minutes of ice time, they haven't been able to make it. They haven't been able to make a change, a line change. It's amazing for them to say, those guys are tired. They've been out for 2 minutes. This is a long shift for them. It's a whole different animal in hockey.
And it really is. And anyone who was a high school wrestler, you go 2 minutes at a time in high school wrestling, you know exactly how exhausted you can get in 2 minutes. And by the way, that's even after training specifically for that exact level of exertion, the exact things that you're asking your body to do. It just it's ATP production. All of you who took human bio back in high school, you remember this, right? Your body is able to generate, like a highly efficient body is able to generate explosive energy for like 30 seconds at a time before it needs a little bit of a reset. You need to be able to take a couple deep breaths. You need to be able to let that muscle rest, you know?
Yeah. Hockey.
The mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. We all go back to high school. We remember these things,
The powerhouse of the cell, of course. Yes, we all know what the mitochondria is. Shout out Bill Nye. But yeah, it's an interesting conversation, and it's not something we're going to know until starting next season. Hopefully everyone's healthy and for the season that they finally are actually trying to win, right?
Yeah.
But the other thought I have about the future of the Jazz is using your huge amount of cap space to trade for Jaren Jackson Jr. this season, and he's under contract for the next 3 or 4 years, right? At a big number. What that tells you is that, once again, this is going to be an ensemble effort for the Utah Jazz. As far as it's not going to be, they're not going to have a top 10 player that they're going to lean on like we see with the Lakers and the Celtics and the Heat and these other places, even the Bucks with Giannis in recent years. This is going to be 2004 Pistons if the Jazz are going to be able to truly chase a title in the next, however big this window will be. It's going to be that ensemble. Chauncey Billups or Rip Hamilton are leading scorers at like 20 points a game, and everyone else just kind of chips in another 15 to 20 themselves. And defense is when you have that kind of a team, defense has to be near the top of the league. That's why Jaren Jackson Jr.
Why you brought him in.
That's another reason why Jaren Jackson Jr. fits in well with this. But if they had, and this is pie in the sky, would not have happened. But if they had been able to trade for Giannis instead, you're talking about a whole different type of way that you can try to construct a championship team. Trading for Jaren Jackson Jr. tells you this is going to be some of the parts is greater than, or the whole is greater than some of its parts. Kind of ensemble effort for the Jazz. And we've, like I said, championship teams have been made that way before. It's just not as often as the star-driven ones.
I think I know this, but what I think I know is that you don't walk in when, you're having your first practice, your first shoot-around of the season, and you don't go, all right, guys, here's the plan, okay? Walker, you're going to give us like 6 points a game and 15 rebounds a game.
And like 7 blocks.
I need at least 5 blocks a game out of you. Okay. I was going to say 7, but Jaren Jackson Jr.'s here now. And
That's true.
He's more of a defensive stopper.
Between
than
the
guys
two of you,
with.
like 10 blocks each.
So Trey J, I know you're like a 19 points a game. I need 16 out of you. Right? And everyone else is sitting around the room. They're just like, okay, Walker only has to do 6. He's got to do 16. And then you're like, Lowry. Lowry's just like, yes, you're to me. Lowry, 24. It's like, what? I thought it was going to be more than that.
It's going to be like 35.
Keontae, I know you gave us 24 last year. You're back down to 19. He's like, what? What do you mean? Ace, 24 from you. Okay, guys, ready, break. Like you said, ensemble cast, it's got to be an interesting conversation with your agent, with your teammates, with your coaches, especially when the expectation for young players is, I want your development, I want your growth I want your statistical evidence of that growth to be up and to the right. Except with turnovers, I need that down and to the right, okay? Yeah. Everything else, more assists per game, more steals per game, more blocks per game, more rebounds, higher field goal percentage. I need all of it to be a linear progression. And Keontae's just like, finally I did that, 25-26. And they're like, I need a plateau from you, Keontae.
You need to pick your spots a little bit more.
Because we're going to win. And again, if you're Keontae and anyone else in this role, you go, all right, wait a second. Instead of being the best scorer on a bad team, I get to be a scorer on a good team. I'd rather be that.
You would,
or maybe
hope
not,
that that's the
but
buy-in
probably.
you get.
I think that's how most of these guys are wired, right?
And Will Hardy has gotten these guys to buy in from an individual effort standpoint. Every team he's had in these last 4 years, he's gotten that buy-in, even though they've been not trying to win, right? So you got to feel good. If you've been paying attention, you've noticed that. You need more of it on the defensive end, for sure. And like we said, hopefully a healthy Walker and bring in Jaren Jackson Jr. should help a ton on that end. But if you've been paying attention, you've seen that level of buy-in when they've not been trying to win. So it gives you a lot of hope that once starting next year, hopefully the health, like I said, plays its part in that. If all your main guys are healthy when the first year you're trying to win, you're going to still get that buy-in, and you're actually have the talent to make where it has a huge difference in the record.
All right, we're overdue. We got to take a break. Before we take a break, a reminder that the show is brought to you today and every day by our friends over at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main, right in the heart of Salt Lake City, the number one sports bar in the state. I didn't decide that. You decided that, voting on it. Number one pool hall in the state. Again, that wasn't me. That was all of you out there that voted on that. Incredible craft food menu. Everything is done well at Big Willie's, including the service. You walk in there, you're going to be treated like family. Tell them OC sent you. Hopefully it gets even better. 1717 South Main, Big Willie's. Gordy Chiesa next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Oh, welcome into the Sean O'Connell Show once again. Welcome our resident NBA guru, Mr. Gordy Chiesa. Hey, Gordy, how are you?
Sean, I'm doing well. Thank you.
Utah Jazz last night, hard-fought battle against the Nuggets, but ultimately a loss, which I think is what everyone kind of hopes for, especially against the good teams in the NBA. And I wanted to we started the show today talking about Keontae George specifically. He had another really nice game, and he's had a lot of those this year. And we were talking about, like the place that he really fits in on a playoff team. And the Jazz hope to be that starting next year. Right now, he's kind of on his own because of all the other injuries that have piled up. And even in that sense, he almost willed this team to a victory last night against a really good Nuggets squad. So Keontae's growth this year is something we have talked about. But what does Keontae's future look like?
Well, he's a starting guard, and he's a combination point guard, scoring guard, and he can make shots, and he's fearless. And so he's definitely a winning starting point guard. And as they go forward, the Jazz in the next 3 to 5 years is knocking on being an all-star. So he's very good. And the maturity index has increased tremendously. This is third season in the NBA. Usually speaking, the game slows down after the first 2 seasons where you really realize how you have to play to win. And he's understanding that right now. So he's been spectacular the whole year, and I'm glad for him as a young player. And the Jazz future is absolutely bright. So, for example, like last night, he was absolutely brilliant. 36 points, including 14 for 22 from the field. But it's when he got them and how he got them. And you mentioned a point about it is that he willed his team to almost a victory. His shooting last night was pitch perfect. When he shot them, how he shot them, and also why he shot them.
So we were debating in the first segment, a guy like him, if you in an ideal world, you slot him in to the role of top scorer on the team, secondary scorer, because you're wanting him to be more of a facilitator. Do you relegate him more to that third or fourth spot? In this imaginary perfect world that the Jazz have not ever existed in, but hopefully will sooner than later. Keontae George fills what scoring role?
Third option.
Okay.
Yeah, which is good. Third option is guy averaging 20-something a game and we'll say 7 dimes and hopefully 1.6 steals, which is absolutely critical when you're a guard in the NBA to be able to ball contain and steal. And so Ace Bailey got a whole bunch of talent, could be that second guy, and the first guy, again, it could be Larry Marketing, who, again, he hasn't played such a long time. So a lot of times it's out of sight, out of mind. And whoever the Jazz draft this year, that guy, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, wherever the lottery guards allow the Jazz to draft come this June, that guy will also be a major high-level talent. So the question is always, Sean, just like in the NFL, when is a talent that a player has meets what the skill set, meets what the mental part of it, to be able to play at a high level? And everyone matures differently. We're seeing right in front of us, Keontae George on the maturity index is now increasing dramatically. So he's really done a great job for himself. And the Jazz coaching staff should be commended what they've done with him as far as slowing the game down for him.
On the other side of things, you have a Denver Nuggets team that obviously they've got maybe the best player in the league, one of the 3 best players in the league. They've got nice secondary pieces. The bench last night at least was not bad. When you look at this Denver Nuggets team, how close to real contention are they?
Very. They're close. Last night's game, the Jazz outfought them, and to their credit. So it's more the Jazz played if the Jazz play like that, generally speaking, they would have had 6 to 8 more victories this year. They were ferocious on defense, the Jazz, led by Elijah Harkless. Now, the Nuggets' point of view, the Nuggets cooperated with them minus Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray last night, Sean, was really he wasn't human last night. He was playing in a twilight zone. So Jamal was not human last night. 45 points, 8 assists, 2 steals. they're right there as far as contending to be NBA champs. Let's not forget they're playing last night with injuries as far as who they didn't have, and that was a factor as far as on their depth right now. So you put in there Aaron Gordon in the lineup, Peyton Watson and Cam Johnson, and along with Tim Hardaway and Bruce Brown, they're really absolutely and Jonas Valanciunas. They have enough bench to go. So that's a lot of teams with injuries right now. But the Nuggets, with those three guys being out last night, they're right there as far as being contenders.
Gordy Chase is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, brought to you by our friends over at Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. As the Jazz continue this delicate balance, and you see a game like the one we saw out of Keontae George, where he's doing a lot of the heavy lifting by himself, what about the role players? Because the role players have to, as the injuries pile up and the shutdowns pile up, the role players have to shift and they have to change. And you saw something good from Svi last night coming off the bench. Kyle Filipowski with 19 points was relatively efficient. As you see these guys improving their game, who's standing out to you?
Isaiah Collier. He's the guy also that when he's in the game, only good things happen. And so the Jazz have a nice, interesting dilemma where Keontae George is, quote, a guard. So he's not a point guard, he's not a two guard, he's a guard, and that's a compliment. And Isaiah Collier is a guard, and he's more of a power guard in a good way, where he bully scores in the lane, but he's pass happy. And then Elijah Harkless, who's this guy in a two-way contract and is absolutely a junkyard dog on defense. He takes guarding people in a very serious state of mind, and he can play in the NBA. And so those two guys stand out, Isaiah Collier and what they're going to do with Harkless. And then Sensabaugh is a knockdown shooter. So I like the Jazz bench. I like they're all contributors. So, Sean, last night's game, for example, the Jazz bench of Bryce Sensabaugh, Oscar Tshiebwe, also in a two-way contract, Steve Mihailuk, John Conchar, and Isaiah Collier. They score 47 points and 12 assists and outplay badly the understudies of the Nuggets, and that's why the Jazz were able to compete. So some of those guys will be gone. Some will be on the team, but we don't know how it all plays out. It makes it so interesting. So the Jazz have some good decision-making this offseason as far as who they take, who they move on, who they try to trade for as different pieces too.
After a 3-game homestand, the Jazz go back out on the road. It'll be the 76ers first. How do they match up against Philly?
Good, absolutely good. But Philadelphia, to their credit, they have a tremendous backcourt. So let's not forget, Tyrese Maxey leads the NBA in most minutes played this season. So he's number one in the NBA minutes on the court, 38.5 minutes. And the rookie, B.J. Edgecombe, who was the third pick of the draft, Sean, you and I talked about him last year very much before the draft, and Baylor University, he's sixth in the NBA in minutes played. So their backcourt is absolutely heavy lifting, and those guys have played tremendous for them. So if you talk about Harkless and a Collier and Keontae George, this road trip to the city of brotherly love, which is with the Jazz play them tomorrow night in Philadelphia, is going to be challenging for them. So it's going to be a good matchup. To the Sixers' point of view, they had, again, it's always, what about Joel Embiid? He's the elephant in the back room, where he's hurt right now with the right oblique strain, so he's out. Who's playing against the Jazz? And also Paul George, again, out of sight, out of mind. He has that suspension of 25 games for violating the NBA anti-drug program, where he forfeited, Sean, $11.74.2 million for 25 games. He's suspended. He won't play against the Jazz. So the Sixers right now, they're overachieving, to their credit. They're the sixth seed in the NBA at 33-27. They're going to try to catch the upstart Raptors, who are also overachieving, and they're going to try to hold off the Magic and the Heat, who are going to try to chase them. So it should be interesting. It should be a good game for the Jazz as far as them seeing if they can build on the intensity level of last night.
What's your list today, Gordy?
All right, my list today is right on point about scoring. Yeah, scoring. Hey, even though defense rules, you got to be able to score the ball. So these guys have a career part of scoring the ball. My list today is most career NBA games of scoring 20-plus points in a regular season contest. So the most ever career 20-point games. Here's the quick attributes. 1, you need one signature scoring go-to move, like, for example, range jumper, sky hook, velocity twist layup. 2, consistently scoring through physicality. The better scorer you are, Sean, the more they're going to try to stop you with being physical. 3, you have to be an accurate foul shooting touch. They bump you, you get fouled all the time. You go to the foul line, you go 0 for 2 for career-wise. That's awful. 4, you have to be a shot creator and a finisher out of chaos. The better scorer you are, the less rhythm the defense allows you to have. So I call you have to score out of chaos. And the last thing is that to have a long career in the NBA or in the NFL or Major League Baseball, you have to have mind-body durability, the ability mentally to score the ball under pressure. And that's both physical and also mentally. Here we go. I only kept it to really only 12 guys. 12th all-time, Dominique Wilkins, 756 20-point plus games. Number 11, Will Chamberlain did it 771, but Sean only in 14 seasons. Number 10, he plays right now for the Cavaliers. James Harden done it 774 times. Number 9 all-time, Carmelo Anthony, he's done it 796 times. Number 8, Shaquille O'Neal, 826 20-point games and plus. Number 7, Dirk Nowitzki with that step-back jump shot. He did it 861 times. Number 6, Michael Jordan, in 15 seasons, did it 926 times. Number 5, the late, great Kobe Bryant, did it 941 times. Number 4, he plays Houston Rockets right now as we speak. He got 20 last night, plus in the last night's game against the Wizards. Kevin Durant has done it 1,007 times. Number 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar scored 20 or more points in a game 1,122 times. Number 2, I had the privilege to coach this guy in many of these games. Karl Malone is second all-time in the most ever 20-plus point games with 1,134, and the number 1 scorer in the most ever 20-point-plus games is LeBron James and counting of the Lakers with 1,314 times he did it, which shows you all the attributes that all these guys in this list have. Quickly, what about present Jazz roster? Larry Markkinen has done it in his career 217 times as far as 20-point games. And Keontae George, we get the feeling that he's going to keep scoring in that list someday, and hopefully he has a long, long, long career. He'll be there someday as far as in this list. Thus, Sean, that's my list of today.
Gordy, it's always a great pleasure. Thanks for your time again.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out. Stay well.
Gordy Chiesa, resident NBA guru. We'll have him in studio. We're going to do that tomorrow because there's a Utah women's basketball game on Thursday. Is that right, James? I think that's right.
That's right. That's right. And it's a big Utah women's basketball game, of course. It's big because it's a Big 12 tournament, but also because it's probably a rivalry game and a revenge game for Gavin Peterson's crew this year. They're 0-2 against BYU so far. That's a good team down there. They get a third shot at it with all the marbles. All the marbles.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah.
I like that you said it's for all the marbles. It's for some marbles.
Well, as far as each of those teams' NCAA tournament hopes,
it is for all.
It is for all the marbles. Yeah, it's not a national championship or Big 12 championship. It's not like a Big 12
championship. It's not those particular marbles, but it is for marbles.
For the ones for the most attainable marbles, that's what's on the line here. All right,
we're gonna start coining that on this show specifically.
Most attainable marbles.
We're just gonna be like, they're playing for the marbles. This one's for some marbles. Did he say all some marbles? Yeah, it's not all of the marbles. It's for some marbles, though. All right, got to take a break here. Hot lunch coming next. Once again, provided you by Burger Fusion in Trolley Square. Cannot wait. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Me wish I was a better food photographer. For me, some people can take a picture even with their phone. They can take a picture of their meal, and it really conveys how delicious that meal or that snack or whatever looks. I mean, I follow a bunch of accounts on Instagram that are just food accounts. It's just like, look how delicious this is. You want to try this. Every time I try and do it, I fail. The lighting is bad. The food looks unappealing, not just like neutral. It looks bad the way I take pictures. I need to be a better food photographer because the burgers at Burger Fusion truly are excellent. They also look really good. I can't really capture that. The burger of the week today is the roasted garlic Parmesan burger. Now, I'm told it will not be available after this week, so you need to get down to Trolley Square. You're looking right at the Whole Foods, just slightly to your left is where you're going to find Burger Fusion. Roasted garlic Parmesan burger. I told Mike, I don't have any pull yet. I told Mike, you need to put this on the menu permanently. It's kind of steakhouse inspired. I think that's a good way to describe a lot of the flavor profiles of these burgers. It's stuff that you're usually not getting. You're not getting those flavor combinations with burgers. You're usually getting flavor combinations like these with fine dining. But the roasted garlic Parmesan burger has the chuck and Wagyu patty, obviously, roasted garlic cloves mixed with Parmesan cheese, some fresh herbs, caramelized onions, the crispy slaw, and they finish it with a mild red wine mustard sauce, slight kick of horseradish, just a little bit of tang, all right? A little bit of depth to the flavor, and they hand make all their buns. They toast the buns, and the buns that are left over, they use those to make the bread pudding. So it is just a chain of deliciousness all the way down at Burger Fusion. Full transparency, my mouth is watering. The burger's not even here yet. It's on its way to the studio, but this is the hot lunch. My mouth is watering just thinking about this burger because I had it last week, and Mike just kind of casually dropped it in. It's when he brought the Burger Challenge burger, so we had this 3.5-pound patty sitting in front of me. And then he's like, oh, don't forget to try this one. This is the burger of the week. It's this garlic, and it stole the show. Incredible, and it's the burger of the week that allegedly, potentially, not available after this week. So get down to Trolley Square, try Burger Fusion, tell them OC sent you.
And I definitely recommend, as good as it is to go, and we're not that far from Trolley Square, so it's still fairly fresh once it comes to us. But as good as this stuff is to go, it's that much better fresh. Having gone in there last week, it like the Havarti pickle spears that we had. By the time they got to us, the cheese had cooled down.
Yeah.
Still very good.
Yeah.
But eating those fresh, that it was like melting. It like burst out of the exterior, like fried exterior with each bite, which just adds just that much extra to the enjoyment there. So it's even better fresh, plus a really nice setup in there. Full bar, I found out. So those that were asking, hey, they got booze at Burger Fusion? They absolutely do. So little of everything there at Burger Fusion in Trolley Square.
I'm taking my mom there on Thursday. My mom's coming into town, and she lived here for 20 years, so tried pretty much everything that's kind of on her flavor palette, but Burger Fusion wasn't around back then. So my mom's coming in. I'm going to take her to Burger Fusion, make her try one of these delicious gourmet burgers. Before we take a break and we come back with Jonathan Tavernari, and I'm going to ask him about this as well. You have seen the glass floor playing surface that we're using for the Big 12 basketball tournament, right? You saw it on social media?
Yeah, I saw the actual like graphic images on the floor. It looks nice.
They've laid it down. It's set up.
Starting tomorrow for women's basketball tournament starts tomorrow. So they're ready to go.
They're testing it out, and it is wild to see. They can just click a button, and suddenly it's the Arizona State Sun Devils floor. Click it again, Kansas State. Click it again, running Utes. It's an LED floor. It is a television screen that you play basketball on. Are we in or out on this now that the images are out there, now that you've seen it? They used it a couple years ago at NBA All-Star Weekend. Are we in or out on this? I want you to tell me that before the tournament starts, before you hear what players – do you think this is an idea that is going to work?
So you got the rest of the day today and till 10 a.m. tomorrow to give us your opinion before the games start.
James, what do you think? Is this something that – I think it's cool for a special occasion. I don't know if we will ever see it as like an everyday NBA thing. I think players are going to be somewhat resistant to that. I have made a prediction that in the Big 12 tournament, players are going to be asked about it. Everyone's going to be cool with it. Kansas is going to be the sticks in the mud about it. That's my prediction because they're so steeped in tradition.
There's so much everything's below us. We're so much better than everybody else.
Why
here.
would we need to do these changes in basketball? We invented basketball in Lawrence, Kansas. This is what we do. So I think they're going to poo-poo it, and I think everyone else is going to be like, hey, this is actually kind of cool.
It's actually kind of cool. I was a cynic at the beginning because of how Brett Yormark framed like this reveal. This thing we're going to do is going to be the most innovative thing anyone's ever done in basketball. And then it's like, yeah, this is an innovative thing, but it was not. I don't know that it lives up to that billing. But setting that aside, which I've done, and now that I've actually seen some of the images that they put out on social media, I think I'm into it for conference tournament, for a preseason. They call them MTEs, multi-team event tournament type things. I'm like, absolutely, especially if you're not having it at a storied place like Madison Square Garden. Like, make your relatively lesser venue a lot cooler by putting something like this down. Absolutely.
We have now seen in college football, we have seen purple turf installed. We've seen red turf installed. Boise State obviously has their iconic Smurf turf, the blue. I saw a high school that has a black turf, which is awesome looking, but probably incredibly hot in the sun. Is this the new wave of playing surface technology that I think it can be? You know what else, James? The next application for this, Ryan Smith, I know you listen to the show every single day. You put this under the ice. Right now, I don't know if there's technology that allows for that. You put this under ice, and you've got a graphic floor projecting up through the ice. I know they can do the laser shows down from the top, but you can't do that while gameplay is happening because you can't be projecting lasers and having skaters skate through them. Do this under some ice. That would look sick.
You're just trying to get your friend from Pac-12 today some more money is what you're doing.
No, friend from the PFL.
From the PFL, excuse me.
And I texted him about this because, it's about to be rolled out. Let's just say he is going to be very, very, well, he already is very happy that he came up with this idea. This is working out very nicely for him, and I'm super happy to hear it.
That's awesome.
You might think, you know what? All the innovations, all the crazy changes in sports have already happened. There's no money left to be made. You're wrong. First time it's being rolled out, the dude whose idea it was, who owns the patents in the United States, that's the golden parachute for him. Love it. We'll ask Jonathan Tavernari if he would like to play on a glass floor. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Red and blue time here on the Sean O'Connell Show. We check in with things down south at BYU. 0% APR for 60 months, zero down payment, zero payments for up to 90 days, plus $1,000 in truck month cash. Right now, the truck month sales event is happening at Murdoch Ford in Santa Quinn. That's good on the F-150 Lariats. That's good on the Super Duties, the crew cabs, even on the 2025 F-150 Lightnings. Go check them out. Tell them OC sent you. Jonathan Tavernari joins us here for some red and blue. JT, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I am doing good, my man. How are you?
Doing awesome. We were just talking about this new floor that the Big 12 tournament is rolling out. It's called the glass floor. It's effectively a giant LED screen that they're going to play live competition, meaningful basketball on for the very first time. This was used a couple years ago at NBA All-Star Weekend for a bunch of exhibition stuff, dunk contests, three-point shooting, Nickelodeon games. This is the first time it's going to be used in a conference tournament with actual meaningful things on the line. And it is not a wooden playing surface, obviously, because LED lights don't shine up through wood. So it's going to be a different feel, a slightly different and acrylic for the players. What would you as a player feel like or think about something like this?
Well, so I actually got to play 2 non-official games on one of those floors at the end of my career. FIBA, pioneered the technology, and a lot of the games that we would play at the beginning of the season in Belgium, in Brussels, in Germany, preseason tournaments, some of these floors were tested. And I'll say is this, I didn't feel like it was slippery or it was kind of like dangerous, although I always was like, what if someone like falls really hard or, what happens, but obviously technology is in such a way that is not a danger. But I will say this, the lights on the floor are weird. And it took me a minute to kind of like get together because they would change during the free throw line. And, there would be commercials and there would be, advertisements that would come in on the floor. During timeouts, the floor was like changing colors and all of this stuff. And you're like, I don't want to be the guy that there's a TV in a room and you lose me. But, you're like seeing all of these colors like you're watching an Avatar movie and you're like, what in the world is happening? And so it is what it is, right? With the All-Star game, the way they did it, it constantly changed doing motions. It will be interesting to see how the Big 12 delivers in terms of like how it changes. But as a player, I will tell you, it was an odd feeling, but that it's super cool to fans. And for players, you're like, okay, well, it is what it is, right? And so, but, something cool for the fans nonetheless.
Everyone in Utah knows that the best surface to play basketball on, by the way, is that old carpet flooring that you would have at the stake centers back in the day. That's the ideal basketball surface, in my opinion.
Well, listen, basketball, we all know this, Sean, right? And I know you're not a member, but, basketball is the official religion of heaven. It's the Mormon church being the only true church, right? There is a basketball court in every gym. And so, but I will say this, Sean, I got to play a lot of basketball in those old carpeted floors. And, I was a Catholic. I converted to Mormonism, and having a basketball court and a hoop that I had access to it pretty much all day, every day, may or may not have influenced my decision to get baptized, Sean.
Well, it makes sense to me. And unironically, I actually loved I'm not a member of the LDS Church. I did grow up doing scouts and activities and all that stuff. Shout out to the Buttercup Chapel down in Sandy. They had the carpeted floor. I unironically loved playing every sport we played in that building. I thought it was fantastic, including basketball. I guess people like me who are unathletic, you slip a lot more on the wooden floors. You don't get to slide around and slip around on those carpeted floors, JT.
Well, I would say this, Sean. A lot of people with my career, they say, "Oh, he was a professional athlete," and I said, "No, sir. I was a professional basketball player. I had to run from three-point line to three-point line, and according to stats in college, I got a rebound and I went to the painting about 5 times, and as a pro, about 6 times a game. And so, you have my sympathy, my friend, because I was a professional three-point shooter, not a professional athlete.
I love that. All right, let's talk about what we're really here for. BYU basketball is right now very, very hard for me to figure out. I drank the Kool-Aid early in the year. I saw that roster. I saw the star power. I saw what A.J. DeBonta can do when he takes over a game, adding that to adding that to Richie Saunders, who was really good last year. Keba being the guy who's willing to do all the dirty work. I'm like, man, this is a deep run tournament team. And we saw plenty of performances that supported that idea. And then, a couple of injuries happen and some inconsistency rears its ugly head, and you start to pay attention to the numbers. And you're like, man, I don't know if they have any, seriously meaningful wins right now. And again, you have to start questioning things. So where are we at with what BYU, with a couple of games left before we get into tournament time, with our confidence that this team is going to be able to figure it out in the short time left?
Yeah, let's dissect this because I think you hit on a lot of points, Sean, that all of them are true at the same time, right? And so let's start at the beginning as one does. At the beginning of the season, with the roster they had, I firmly believe that drinking the blue Kool-Aid was totally acceptable. BYU was looking to be most likely one of the most dominant teams in the country. And we all got to see that as the season went on up into November, December. At that point, fatigue, injuries, losses started depleting the team all the way through the month of January and February, right? Now, we also have to call a spade, which is, the Big 12 is arguably the first or second conference in the country. It is a gauntlet of a schedule. And so that also plays a big factor. And then you get to the loss of Richie Saunders, which, Sean, I don't remember if we talked about this or not, but I have a hard time believing, Sean, that we're probably going to see another kid, that like Richie Saunders, stay on the same team and develop and get better year after year. I feel like he's a dying breed. You know what I'm saying? And so, and then you get to where things are now, where, BYU is kind of, and again, I'm going to say that this is my opinion, but they look not very interested in finishing the Big 12. They look like they're ready for March Madness. Unfortunately, you can't get there without the next 2 or 3 games that they have. Well, at least 3 games, today against Cincinnati at Cincinnati, and then Saturday against Texas Tech, and then 1 or 2 or however many Big 12 tournament games. And so BYU's not in a good spot right now, Sean. And there's 2 reasons. Well, there's 2 things that I want to talk about. The first one is they have all the excuses in the world to be losing games. Nate Pickens was supposed to be the backup point guard, never suited up for BYU this year. Richie Saunders is supposed to be, the face of the program, done for the year. Dawson Baker's supposed to be their 6th man coming off the bench, done for the year. So they have all of the excuses why they're losing. The problem is, Sean, how they're losing. And to be honest with you, they're not losing in a good way. Now, is there such a thing as a bad loss? No, kind of in this day and age of metrics. But they're not playing hard. The effort is lackadaisical, and it's just very disappointing, right? It's a difficult, I'm a BYU TV analyst, and a lot of times it's difficult to maintain, the blue goggles of being a BYU guy working for a BYU channel, because they don't look good. And to me, it's a lack of effort. And so I think everything that you touched on, it's 100% true. There are reasons why BYU is not winning, and they are, falling very fast, if you will. But to me, the main thing is, Sean, just play hard. Why can't they just play hard? And I wish that was the norm more than the exception. But right now, it feels like the exception is that they're just not playing hard.
Will playing hard solve these woes in a meaningful way? I mean, like, it's nice to see a team play hard that doesn't have the necessary talent to win big games. I mean, there's been games we've watched when Utah basketball this year played really, really hard, but they're just overmatched, right? They don't have AJ DeBonsa, though. They don't have Rob Wright. So if those guys, if this BYU roster plays harder against Cincinnati, I think they can win that game. Can a hard-playing BYU roster beat Texas Tech and then win 2-3 games in the Big 12 tournament?
I don't think so. In full transparency, I think to your point, BYU, if they play hard, they give themselves a chance to beat Cincinnati. If BYU plays hard, I still think Texas Tech come out on top. Sean, I know that we're talking about BYU, but this is a Utah show. We're in the same conference, and I know you follow just as much, if not more, than I do. Texas Tech looks crazy good, even without JT Toppin, which is scary. And so as you do that and you have a very emotional senior night and freshman night, if you will, for AJ, it becomes one of those things that you're like, oh, geez, BYU has to play otherworldly to be able to beat these guys. Someone, skeptics can say, well, JT, but they beat Iowa State. Iowa State just didn't play well. And I think it's time for BYU fans to come to terms with the fact BYU played well against Iowa State. BYU played well against Iowa State. Iowa State wasn't even a shadow of themselves. And so I don't think it's a big, that win, to your point, that's the not symbolic win. That is their marquee win of the season. Let's just put it right there, right? That's their signature win of the season. But it's still one of those things that you're like, geez, is that going to be enough for them to not just be a 9 or a 10 seed? And I'll tell you, Sean, if they don't win one of two games of today or Saturday, they're most likely going to fall to a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Wow. I mean, relative to the preseason expectation and to the early expectation, how is that going to be handled? I had this conversation on the show last week. We do this all the time. Championship or bust, tournament or bust, whatever or bust. But we don't ever really flesh out what or bust means. In a lot of cases, it means somebody loses a job. Nobody at BYU is in danger of that. We've talked about this before. But what does it do if you underperform this way and then you lose AJ and you lose Rob Wright and you're back to a rebuild? Now, the program I still think is in a good place, but we might never get another year where preseason expectations look like this for BYU basketball. And if this is the ultimate result, yikes.
Oh, and I think you're spot on. You know what I mean? I think that, perception is reality, right? And the perception is BYU basketball was headed to incredible heights. The reality is they had a lot of missteps during the way that all came because of injuries. And so the talk track that you're going to have to go to boosters and donors and to the collectives is, look, guys, we have a chance to be special. You give us, another 15 million or so, or whatever it is, the number that is being thrown out for this roster. We're going to be competitive again. And I think that then at that point, Kevin Young, Justin Young, and the entire staff is going to have to go to work, right? Because they're not going to have a marquee player for the program like Richie Saunders is. They're not going to have, an AJ DeBonsa coming in. Sure, they have a kid that they're recruiting that is a top 5, top 10 team kid in the country, but certainly they don't have someone that is going to be able to be a dominant force and have the AJ aura that is going to come in, right? And so it's a very interesting, with this week finishing up the regular season, next week being the conference tournament, the week after that, the NCAA tournament starts. And so, I would say to your point, I agree. Kevin Young is not on the hot seat. I certainly would, very much say that I don't know if all members of his coaching staff come back, and I think the defense has been atrocious, right? And I think that's a fair thing to say because Kevin Young has said it himself. And so it becomes one of those things that you're like, okay, Kevin Young is not in jeopardy, but is everybody else from the coaching staff? Are they in jeopardy? I think that's a very fair question to ask. What about the budget and the efforts that the collectives, the boosters, and the donors are going to have? Are we going to see the same level of investment come in? Now, in 3 weeks, Sean, we may be very well having a different conversation and go, how about that? BYU made a run in the Big 12 tournament, which I think is unlikely. What I think is likely is BYU makes a run and wins a couple of games in the NCAA tournament and make the Sweet 16. And Sean, if BYU makes the Sweet 16, yes, I think that at that point, everything is going to be the same as it was this year in terms of NIL, investments, and there's another word I'm looking for in terms of how much is going to be put into next season that Kevin Young is going to be able to work with. If they can get to the Sweet 16, I think that's a massive accomplishment.
Yeah, we need to acknowledge that is still a possibility because you have one of the three best players in all of college hoops right now. You have Rob Wright, who I've heard things that maybe he's, the chemistry is not ideal with him, but he's also going to be like, all right, this is the last ride. Let's get right for the tournament. Players can put themselves into a lofty place in an upcoming NBA draft just with how they perform in an NCAA tournament. So I think everyone's going to get dialed in. It's possible that they make that run. And if they do, I think, like you said, everything kind of comes out in the wash and we're like, oh, wow, what a weird season this has been. And we'll probably do what we did with the Jimmer teams. Like, oh, what would, if everyone had been available, if everyone had been healthy, imagine what else could have been possible. If Richie Saunders hadn't got hurt, what else could have been possible for this BYU basketball team? But if they end up having, they go out with a bit of a whimper here, does it change the recruiting pitch at BYU? Because you can be the top player in the country here. You can be a top draft pick here. You can make good money here. But even when we have those things, if we didn't win at all, how do you have to change the recruiting pitch?
I don't think so. Because here's the thing, for you to win it all, you have to have a lot of things aligned. I was talking to Blaine Fowler about a month ago, and the 1984 BYU football team that won the national championship. I don't know if you knew this, Sean, but they started the same 11, 12 guys on defense all year long. And they didn't have a single injury on the defensive side of the ball all year. When was the last time you heard of something like that, Sean?
Well, I'll tell you,
what I mean?
It was the 04 Fiesta Bowl Utes. We had the same thing where everybody played. There was one significant injury the whole year, and everyone else stayed healthy. I'm talking offense and defense. There was only one meaningful starter or projected starter that got hurt that was not available. Everyone else, we were lucky. And you make a really good point.
And I think that when you look at that, for you to be able to get to that Final Four, you have to stay healthy. You have to have a lot of luck. Like the ping pong balls, no pun intended for the Jazz and the draft and the fiasco that the NBA is handling, thanking. But, you got to have a few things bounce your way. And so I don't think you change your pitch a lot, right? Because with the way that things were with Yegor, and at the beginning, Kevin Young was able to land A.J. DeBonsa, right? And so, the one thing that I would say, Sean, that you change your pitch a little bit is on the construction of the roster. Meaning, do you go super top heavy, or now do you distribute that a little bit more? So that instead of having 2 or 3 otherworldly players, you now have 5 or 6, guys that are 80 overall, and you lean on the fact that you're going to have a roster of, 6 or 7 guys that are, 75 to 85 overall, rather than, have 3 guys that their 2K ratings are 90 plus. And I'm curious to see how Kevin Young constructs the roster next year, because these are fair questions, right? Aside from the big three that BYU had with Rob Wright, AJ DeBonsa, and Richie Saunders, that I would say that those guys were, 90 plus ratings. The drop was significant after that, where I wouldn't say that BYU has another guy that's an 80. And, I would say Kebaketa is probably an 80 guy, an 80 ratings type of guy, if you're kind of following what I'm saying. But, everybody else is in the 70s, and it's a big drop because if you lose one of those guys, it happens what we're seeing right now.
Arizona captured the regular season title in the Big 12 with a big Monday win. Are they going to win the Big 12 tournament also?
It will be difficult because they're going to have to face Texas Tech. They're going to have to face Kansas. They have to face Iowa State. The conference is tough, Sean. I mean, look at TCU, right? TCU has a chance to win 10 games in a Big 12 conference, which is something that, it's difficult. BYU is not going to be – BYU will be – if BYU win the 2 games this week, BYU is going to be a 7 seed. I guarantee that. And so they're going to have to play a UCF team that's long and athletic, and they have a point guard that can go for 30 at any given point. And so I don't know if Arizona is able to stay sharp, because here's the other thing too, Sean, as you're having to play 3 games in 4 days, 4 games in 5 days, that's also going to take a toll for the NCAA tournament, where you're going to have to play 2 games in less than 48 hours. Right. And that is not easy to do. I can tell you that. And so, I don't know. I don't even know, Sean, if Arizona is the number 1 overall seed anymore, which, for pretty much 3 months they were. But having watched Duke last night, Duke makes a very good case, Sean, to be the number 1 overall seed. And I think the path for Duke to win the ACC tournament is less difficult than it is for Arizona to win the Big 12 tournament. And so, a lot of implications. And, I am very grateful that BYU gets to be part of March Madness. They are going to go to the tournament, right? But then to your point of earlier, Sean, woulda, coulda, shoulda, what could have been?
Maybe we'll be asking it. Maybe we'll be talking about a great run. We'll just let the games play out. Jonathan Tavernari will be watching closely. We'll talk about it next time we get a chance. JT, appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you so much. Hope you guys have a great day.
Red and Blue brought to you by our friends at Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. It is truck month down there. Huge sales and a big opportunity. If you've been thinking about a pickup truck, now is the time at Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. Tell them OC sent you. We go from blue to red. Sean Mooney joins us next to talk some Running Utes basketball. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Oh, man. That roasted garlic Parmesan burger from Burger Fusion slaps, as the cool kids say. Also, the garlic Parmesan dipping sauce. Today they brought in the appetizer. It's the mozzarella cheese cubes. Think of a mozzarella stick, but make it actually delicious. Instead of excessively breaded, low quality. This thing is fantastic. Burger Fusion at Trolley Square. All right, we go from red and blue. We did the blue with Jonathan Tavernari. Now we got the red with Sean Mooney, color analyst on all the Utah radio broadcasts for Running Utes Hoops. Sean Mooney, welcome to the show. How are you?
John O'Connor, you're making me hungry. I just heard the back half of that. Where are you eating? What is that burger?
Okay, Burger Fusion. It's a new burger spot in Trolley Square. You have got to try this place. Everything they have brought us is excellent so far.
I'll do it tomorrow night. I don't think I can do it tonight. I've got a little game or something going on. Or Utah has a game, senior night.
Yeah, senior night, and I wanted to start there. What a strange and complicated legacy to leave if you're somebody who's been in this program. And obviously a lot of these guys haven't been here for all 4 years. Senior nights all across college sports and especially college basketball are so different now. But, you know, you got to bid farewell to the home floor and in a lot of ways to your career when you're in these situations. So just set the stage for me.
Yeah, that's right. It does feel so weird, right? So my era in particular, you know, most athletes were at an institution their entire career. If they were lucky, if they stayed healthy. Obviously, tonight we have James Okonkwo and Don McHenry, our two seniors we know for sure don't have any eligibility left, which is saying something in and of itself. And they've been well traveled, both of them. It's just different. And I think, Sean, for fans, that's a weird thing because they're getting more used to it, but I think it's still not their favorite thing. I'm speaking for fans in general because it's more fun to see a student athlete develop through 3 years at the same institution. So it's a weird night, but to Don and James, credit, I think they did a really nice job this year in the face of tough circumstances. Anytime you're losing, it's hard, man. And I just talked to Don's family down in Tempe. They're great. They were wonderful to spend some time with. Don has been a good leader. He's a kind person. James has been a great leader. He gives you everything he's got every night. So hopefully some fans come out and say goodbye to him.
And obviously, final home game on the Huntsman Center floor in Alex Jensen's first head coaching year, which again is a thing in and of itself. It's been a complicated year, and he has handled it, I think, with various levels of aplomb. I like the way that he's a direct communicator. I know that's been incredibly frustrating for him, but we're going to look back on it when the season's actually over. We can look back on the home run at least, and it has not been a particularly dominant home stand all season long.
Yeah, no, I would say he would be the first person to tell you. I can't speak for him, but he'd be the first person to tell you that he's disappointed. And there are lots of levels to that. But I think the number one level is, early in the season we were talking about he himself had never go from, an athlete. That's crazy in and of itself. Talking about, a 4-year career at University of Utah, never losing a game at the Huntsman Center. To the first couple of games, first half, 5-6 looked pretty good, and then it's been rough since then. It's a rough year, and I think now they have a better understanding, the staff and Coach Jensen, of what the Big 12 is, of what college basketball is, and maybe even more so about the type of student athletes that they're going to bring into the program to run the offense and the defense that they want to run. And hopefully, Sean, you and I and the rest of us can look back at this year and say it was a learning experience.
Well, there is always, we've used every cliche possible, right? When we're talking about a rebuild, it's like, all right, are we tearing down the old house? Are we laying the foundation? Are we just doing the concrete work, right? But there has to be a starting point in all of these processes. And it's a complicated process now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how complicated has it been, and is it the start you were hoping for?
No, heck no. It's not the start I was hoping for. It's not the start anybody was hoping for. And I say that, and I think I say that with the same energy that Coach Jensen would say it with, right? Again, I can't speak for him, but no, I mean, I even said to Spence at the end in the Crown tournament, Sean, you and I called that game together, that I thought the one hallmark that Coach Jensen was going to bring, and he did this with the Canton Charge, the G League team that he coached, was solid defense. I don't honestly think you have to be superiorly talented to be good defensively, and we haven't been. We have gotten better as the year has ended. I think communication is a big key, effective communication, and I think that he is transparent, and that's going to bode well for him as a coach. And the staff it's a nice staff to hang out with. Coach Chill, Coach Schiller, Coach Daniels. I think they're giving it their all. But yeah, no, I think this year has been a disappointment. I know from my standpoint, Sean, you can appreciate this. Man, when you get to the end of the game and you're asking, first of all, it's hard to interview a coach at the end of a game, regardless of winner or not. But when there are losses, it gets harder and harder. And you can only come up with so many, kind of in-between statements about what happened. Really, like the last game, ASU, I asked the question and he just basically said, yeah, no, we were really selfish. And I'm not gonna necessarily pose that question, but yeah, obviously this has not been the year that I think anyone wanted.
So moving to the Big 12 at large, right? I mean, your place in this conference, you have to color it with realism and say, all right, in order to get from where this team is right now, which is not exactly impressive, to where you want to be, it is a steep and potentially very long climb. We watched a big Monday game last night, and Arizona claims the regular season title, and the distance between where Utah's at and where they're at right now it's a massive gap. But that's true of even teams in the middle of the pack and even pretty good teams in the Big 12 right now when we're chasing Arizona. How good are the Wildcats right now?
Oh, Sean, I mean, they're exceptional. So we got to see them the first game of the year. And so I'm now, 18 games later. Of course, I've watched them, and I followed Tommy Lloyd. I have the pleasure of being friends with some people that are involved at Gonzaga on in a really nice way. So I kind of have known a little bit about him. And then, of course, being in this basketball world, it's hard not to appreciate what Mark Few has done. And then Tommy Lloyd comes down to Arizona and just continues to do it. In Arizona, I mean, across the board, I think they play in a way, and Fran Fraschilla said it last night, Sean, you heard it. They play in a very physically intimidating way. Not intimidating like you're scared of them, but they just demand what they want to have happen. They demand it with their physicality, with their bodies, the way they play. And they don't, to me, like they're a team that's really connected. And they have the right kind of college pieces, not necessarily next level. Now, Braden Berry's next level, Pete Karchenko, they may all be next level. And Jaden Bradley, a senior guard. No, I think they have the whole package. And I said just a couple weeks ago, it goes through Houston. And guess what? It doesn't, Sean. It goes through Arizona. Good on them, man. I like them a lot.
Who is the biggest threat to the Wildcats as we get to Big 12 tournament, and then NCAA is a different thing? So starting with the Big 12.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's got to be Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, Texas Tech, even with Texas Tech having lost JT Toppin. And I think the reason those four teams that I just mentioned are there is because of their defense. On any given night, you've got to be able to defend Arizona. And Arizona is really tough to defend because they're old school, right? They score in the paint. And then when you have a guard like Braden Berry, who is off the charts good, next level player, and a senior guard like Jaden Bradley, it makes them even more effective. And then when Koa Pete goes down, all of a sudden you see Del Arso, who can really shoot it and stretch it, and his defender has to stay with them. They're even a little better. But those four teams that I mentioned can do it because of their defense. And then their leadership, they all have really good leadership. Kansas is they're gonna gel, and when they gel, they're really good. And in particular, I think because of Melvin Council. But any of those teams are going to compete with Arizona in the Big 12 championship. But I want to say this: I don't care what the tournament says. Regular season champions are who I'm going to hang my hat on every year. I wish we didn't have a tournament. I know that's not the right thing for me to say, but I'm a Coach Majerus guy, and I think it's silly. You just went through the whole regular season, determine your champion. I know why we do it, Sean, but that's the team that should, be the regular season champions and the only champions.
The tournament is going to be played on an iPad, basically.
Yeah, I know, man.
I don't have an
Explain
unbiased
that to your listeners.
I don't have an unbiased opinion on this because my friend invented and owns the patents to this version of it on American soil. Yeah, so it's like
wow.
I'm rooting for this floor to be a success for his sake. But
yeah,
you played high level basketball. Tell me the challenges. Tell me what you like about it.
Yeah. Well, okay, Sean, that's cool that your friend invented it, and I hope it just takes off. It's so for the listeners that don't know, basically we're going to be playing on a glass floor that's underlit, and so it's going to be able to show the home teams all of their normal insignia and branding. And then it's going to have like its own show underneath, just like you said, like an iPad. And like what I've heard directly from players who have played on it, the only people that I know that have actually played on it are our women's team. And they said it was fine, that it felt sticky. Like one of the nice things about a wood floor is it's sticky. And then obviously you have an even bounce. Everything I've heard is it's going to be grippy enough and the bounce is good. The bounce is even. And then it's got enough of spacing underneath it. So it's got a little spring in it. The jury's out. We'll be there. We'll be on top of it, and I'll be able to tell you more next week. But I'm interested. It's going to be better than the floor last year, in my opinion. I thought it was too busy, and I think it's going to be really cool to see what they decide to do from a light show standpoint.
Yeah, the Big 12 announced that Windex is the sponsor of the floor, which makes sense. A glass floor,
smart
glass cleaner. So yeah, they're full-on commercials running on the actual basketball floor while timeouts are happening. It's a new era of branding for certain for the Big 12 and everyone else who plays on it. So, yeah, I'll be curious to pick your brain about that after you've seen it up close and maybe got a chance to bounce around on it.
I will. Yeah, I'm excited to see it myself, Sean.
All right, well, have a good call on senior night, and we'll chat again very soon. Thanks, Sean.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Talk to you, brother. Bye.
That's Sean Mooney. When he joins us, we affectionately refer to it as the Walk-Shawns because he was a walk-on. I was a walk-on at Utah. Walk-Shawns. Get it? Do you get it? All right.
You guys had the same kind of career at Utah.
No.
He ended up working his way into Majerus's rotation, right? So, but you ended up in the rotation equivalent at Weber State.
I also ended up being on a team somewhere. Big thanks to Sean Mooney. Good luck for everyone going up to senior night tonight. Stop at Burger Fusion on your way up at Trolley Square.
Park at Trolley Square. Eat some food. Take tracks up, right?
It's a great idea.
Isn't that the way to go?
I do not endorse whether or not you're going to be ticketed for leaving your car there long term.
Yeah, so you'll have to look into that. I'm not sure.
Look at the official parking policy, but it's a short detour to get to Burger Fusion at the very, very least. Tell them Sean sent you. All right. Daily Dump is coming next. Jeff Schwartz at the top of hour number 3. Matt Farrell, the CEO of U.S. Figure Skating, to talk about a big event coming to the Maverick Center. We still got a lot to get to. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Daily Dump means you should look for the truck with the duck for all of your plumbing, your heating, your air needs. Any problem you have at your home, Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Air can take care of it for you. Go to valleyplumbing.com, set an appointment right there online in their chat feature. All right, lots of stuff here in the Daily Dump today. This was mentioned in James's update. The NFL continues their international push. The Atlanta Falcons are going to play a game in Madrid. I'll tell you how that's going to go because I will be a Madrid expert 2 weeks from now. I'm going to Madrid at the end of my guerrilla trip to call some PFL fights. Now, playing at the Bernabeu would be awesome for an NFL player who has any interest at all in football, in European football, in soccer.
Okay, you're going to have to forgive my ignorance here. Is this the Bernabeu?
It's where Real Madrid plays.
Real Madrid's home stadium. Okay, so historic soccer venue.
It's like one of the.
Yeah.
Right? It's like one of the cathedrals of sport in Europe.
That's cool.
So that's really cool that you get to play there. Beyond that, I have no idea how interested the Spanish fans are, how large the expat community is, that people are going to show up. And I'm always interested when it comes to selecting who goes where, right? There was the time where the Jacksonville Jaguars, there was like that very early conversation that like, hey, we're going to try to make this like a London home team because of the owner's British roots.
And they've stuck with that. The Jags always get 2 games, or they always get at least a game in London every year. They're sticking with that this year. I think they get 2.
That's because Shad Khan is like, yeah, let's go to London.
Yeah.
I love London. I've spent a lot of time in London, right? So the Atlanta Falcons are, it's like, if you're a European fan, a European NFL fan, you like American football, you're like, okay, now I like the Falcons. Because that's enough. If you're a young kid especially, well, I watched this team play in person. It was a great experience. I have a great memory of it. So now I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. I don't know how they decide. I don't know how it works, but Atlanta will be playing in Madrid. We have talked about all the teams tanking in the NBA and how the Wizards are among them. Even after the Trae Young acquisition, he has yet to play. He's expected to play on Thursday, but not before he got ejected from his first NBA game in a Wizards. Wait, he wasn't in a Wizards uniform. He was on the bench
in street clothes. His first game ejected from a first time ejected from a game in street clothes in his career for the Washington Wizards. How about that?
Well done, Trae Young, getting ejected from a game before you've actually played a game for that franchise. I'm not saying that facetiously. I think that's actually awesome. Just set a tone.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I'm a Wizard for life now. I'm going to yell about things that have happened to a team that I have yet to play for.
And that I asked to be traded to Washington because I like the city of Washington, D.C., and I want to be a Wizard for life.
I enjoy our nation's capital immensely.
I love the National Mall.
It's actually so sick. The monuments are beautiful. Large, expansive lawns, plenty of open space. It's really nice.
And you can take in a Nationals game or something else while you're there if you want.
Now, they don't have any sports teams I actually want to watch. Really.
Yeah. The only reason to go to a game if you're not a fan of one of those teams already is to do like the Major League Baseball fan thing, which is like I want to see every ballpark. So I'm going to go to a Nationals game. But that's kind of the only reason to do it, right?
For me, yeah.
For you or I.
Ted Lasso fan. You're a Ted Lasso fan?
Yeah.
I thought it was a wonderful television series.
Yeah.
I guess they're doing like a movie. Is that
Are
right?
they really? I haven't seen that. Believe.
Danny Rojas actually plays soccer.
The football is life?
Yes. Danny Rojas, the character.
I did not know till I saw this on the rundown that he was actually a soccer player.
He played a knee injury actually took him out of like kind of the pipeline to be maybe a bona fide serious professional soccer player. He's playing for the El Paso Locomotive. His real name is Cristobal Fernandez. He was born in 1991, which shockingly makes him 35 years old, even being born in the 90s. And he's trying out for a USL team. He's playing for him. He played like 30 minutes for him the other night. And there's expected to be this week a decision on whether or not he's actually going to be a member of the team for real. Danny Rojas, the fictional character, is a real person who's actually decent at soccer.
I believe El Paso's a USL team, right?
That's right. They're the USL. They're playing against the New Mexico United.
Basically the AAA of MLS.
He played 30 minutes against New Mexico United on Saturday and, accounted decently well for himself, I guess. He was playing for his hometown team, Tecos Football Club, and he went into acting after he had a really serious knee injury at age 15. Season 4 of Ted Lasso currently in the works, expected release this summer. He has not yet been confirmed as part of the cast, so the fate of Danny Rojas could be up in the air. Obviously, the more lucrative thing here would be for him to be Danny Rojas than to be himself playing for a USL team.
What are you saying
in El Paso.
What are you saying about the USL?
I'm just telling you that.
What are you saying about the Real Monarchs?
Being part of a massive hit television show is definitely better for your financial future than being in AA soccer.
Did you know that soccer is the third most popular sport in America now, OC? You're saying that? I don't know if you knew that. Gallup poll.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look up average
USL is a soccer league.
Salary.
If I'm not mistaken.
Give me your guess on the average USL salary.
Well, let's see. What's the salary for Ted Lasso?
No,
more than that.
Just give me your guess.
I guess for $35,000.
$30,000 to $45,000 annually. Great guess, James. Wow. Give yourself some James Peterson bonus points.
So he's only making $25,000 a year for being Danny Rojas,
with veterans often earning around $5,000 per month.
All right.
The league is moving toward a $55,000 minimum salary for top-tier USL League One salaries.
It's because that Gallup poll. USL is now the third most popular sports league in America.
Look, I'm not disparaging developmental leagues. If you're a USL player or you're chase the professional athletics dream as hard and as long as you can. It is a beautiful thing to play a game and be paid for it, even if you're hardly making a dang dime. To avoid the corporate doldrums that everyone else has to push themselves through and chase your dream, absolutely go for it. I actually love this.
You're Mr. Developmental League on the show here.
I love this for Danny Rojas.
Yeah.
Or the Danny Rojas actor. Because, so you see this occasionally in college sports. I don't think Utah's had one of these guys where someone 877-353-0700. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we've had one of these guys. It's usually in the South, usually in places where there's large military bases, honestly, where you'll have a guy who signs up for the Marines, the Army, whatever, when he's 17 or 18 years old, and he puts in his full go, right? He goes a full 20 years. And then he retires from the military and almost invariably is in phenomenal shape for someone who's in their late 30s, early 40s. And then that person walks on. I think South Carolina had one. I know Alabama State has had one of the, you get every other year, it seems, one of these individuals, right? And I think some sports fans laugh at it a little bit. I do not. Even though I fully acknowledge that these guys are not going to be elite level players, there is something that should be encouraged about chasing a dream, whether it makes sense or not.
Well, how about the Minnesota guy who's a lawyer who got to throw a stone on the U.S. curling team.
54 years old.
Yeah, like that's
oldest
not
Olympian ever.
That's not anything to laugh at. Even though he was an alternate and he only got in because the result was not in doubt anymore. They're like, we're gonna give you this chance to check off this dream of this thing on your bucket list, this big dream of yours to actually have competed in an Olympics. However technical it is, this guy competed in the Olympics. It's the same kind of thing for these guys that are like the guys you mentioned in college football. The actor who plays Danny Rojas in a lower developmental league in soccer, getting a chance to try out, like, good for them. Yeah, do it.
The emergency goalies that exist for every single NHL game that you never hear about except when some freak happenstance makes them get called into service. According to Google, the last time an emergency goalkeeper was used in an NHL game was February 22nd, 2020. Wow, what a time that was. You had heard the word COVID, but it had not yet shut down the world, right?
It was
February
like
22nd, 2020?
2 weeks away from that.
It was like right after that.
So, OC, I was still doing Sports Saturday at that time, and I said into that microphone that you're talking into, a week before Rudy Gobert tests positive and the world shuts down, the nation shuts down. I said the news broke that NCAA tournament is considering playing without fans in the building, and I said, "Wow, that'd be crazy. No way I think that's happening. That'd be crazy." A week later, no NCAA tournament at all. So yeah, crazy times.
Very odd times. The last time, this is disputed, by the way. The Anaheim Ducks say that Tom Hodges dressed and went into the game for a couple seconds for them in 2022, but David Ayers played for the Carolina Hurricanes against the Toronto Maple Leafs, got it in the second period. He allowed 2 goals. He made 8 saves, and his team, the Carolina Hurricanes in this case, earned a 6-3 win. I'm sure that there's been a time when David Ayers' family leading up to that was just like, what are you doing? You're 42 and you're a Zamboni driver. Knock it off. Chase the dream, man. Keep living it, Danny Rojas. That's inspiring to me. This guy is at least, he's not a big time actor, but he's a successful actor. And he's like, you know what? I still want to play soccer. I'll go to El Paso to do it.
For way less money than I get per episode, probably. Like, absolutely.
$25,000 to $30,000 per season. $30,000 to $45,000 per season with the increase in the USL. Yeah, you're probably making that per episode on Ted Lasso. And Sudeikis is probably making $1 million per episode. Awesome. All right, Jeff Schwartz is going to join us next, our resident football expert. We'll talk about the Combine. We'll talk about the Combine results and the upcoming NFL Draft, as well as franchise tag deadline coming up in 54 minutes. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome to hour number 3. Welcome, Jeff Schwartz, friend of the program, longtime NFL veteran, former Oregon Duck. The Oregon Ducks continue to put out freakish athletic performances at the NFL Scouting Combine. Jeff Schwartz did not do that, but other Oregon Ducks do.
Glad to be with you, buddy. Back from my first vacation in a couple of years, so glad to be with you.
Sorry, you said weeks wrong. First vacation in a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks. I don't. My wife goes on a ton of vacations. I do not. I have to. We got a dog, and Fo turns 3 today. Happy birthday! And I got 2 dragons now. I'm a 10U softball coach. First scrimmage tonight. Big night for us for the old Thunderbats. That's our name, Thunderbats. Pretty awesome.
That's a great name.
Yeah. Okay. Meredith came up with it. I didn't want to use it, and then it kind of grew on me. And she's very, very pleased with herself that she came up with Thunderbats.
It's a good
the
name.
Thunderbats.
What's the kit color? What are we looking at?
Well, so we're just Myers Park Little League. We just have the same Blue League uniforms we always have. They're red and blue. But I bought our team Thunderbat shirts that we are going to wear for warm-ups and stuff if the girls want to.
Did you mock up a logo or anything?
Yeah, AI logo. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's here. I can send it to you. It's pretty big business here. First scrimmage tonight. We've got our pitchers identified. We have most of our fielders identified. Got to find some hitters. Old Emmy Schwartz needs to step up a little bit. I feel like I'm trying not to put too much pressure on her, but we need Emmy to play well for the old 10U Thunderbats this year. I heard you guys talking about the COVID 2020 before I came on. I thought you were never coming to me, by the way, but I'm glad you found time in your day for that. I think our best work we ever did was during the COVID year because we had nothing to talk about for 7 months. And we were on nearly every day still.
It was incredible. Just contact tracing and the
go over local
Berkeley health officials canceling every damn game for Cal. Oh my gosh.
We were just talking about municipality rules in Berkeley to see if the Cal can practice on a given day. We just were doing the dumbest stuff.
It's actually amazing.
Hopefully, obviously once in a generation, I hope. Jeez.
So many industries boomed in that time just because people were bored as hell.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency went absolutely insane. I like shoes. I'm a sneaker guy, as you're aware. So that was the height because everyone's just sitting at home on the internet all day. And they're just I should get these cool custom shoes, or I should get these cool unique shoes that are hard to find. The floor has absolutely dropped out of the bottom of that market. You can get shoes that used to be $1,000 a pair at Ross now. It's amazing what that time did for particular especially collector type industries. It's wild.
I heard Skechers are back though. I heard some shoes have made a return. No?
I don't know that Skechers sponsors any of our radio stations here in the group, but I have never, will never, could never purchase a Skechers anything. Not even for my children, certainly not for my wife, and I'd rather go barefoot. No, can't be done.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know you were an elitist like that, but okay.
With footwear, I try to be. All right, let's talk about the scouting combine. I know that you were loving the big men. 9 guys at the NFL scouting combine went under 5 flat that are supposed to be offensive linemen next year. I don't know if that's any kind of record, but I mean, we're all talking about 300-plus pound dudes running faster than most of the people that we know.
Yeah, look, obviously the 10 tends to matter a little bit more, right? Because that's the explosive part of our game, and so does the broad jump and the vertical. And you were joking about my combine; it was atrocious. I mean, I had a 1% vertical, right? The reason, and people, I tweet that out. And people, say, why does it matter? Well, it matters because the combine is important because there are benchmarks for success with some of the numbers, right? So if you're at a certain number that these are numbers with the height and weight of players that have had success over their lifetime, right? And you can use that as a baseline. Okay, well, these are the numbers that have worked in the past. If we go outside that, is that guy an outlier now? How do we square that? And so that's why the numbers are important, right? It's why we like to get them. It doesn't mean someone's going to be good. But my brother, I like using the RAS scores. You've seen those before, right? The Relative Athletic scores that are put out there. And there's a combination of, just sort of putting everything together, height, weight, all the numbers. 10 is the best, right? And there were some players that had 9.9s. There was a tight end on Stanford who was like the most athletic tight end of all time in this combine. I'm sure there were offensive linemen that were in the 9.5 area, right? Like really outstanding. My brother was a 2.3, Sean.
Yes.
I was a 5. I was in the 5s.
That's incredible.
And so the numbers matter, but so does, can you play football, right? Now, for those who might not, my brother played 9 years NFL, was a 4-time All-Pro, and won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. So obviously the numbers for him didn't matter at all, right? So this is what it's about, right? It's about finding a baseline. Okay, what do we know about this player based off their film? Does their testing live up to their film? That's the first question, right? If it does, it's just a check mark. Okay, good, check. Now we see, okay, well, is the shuttle time, is it like in that range of like, wow, these guys who have the shuttle time typically are really, really good in the NFL? And then so that's how, to me, I evaluate all this, right? So these guys running fast, a lot of them are already good athletes, right? So it's not a surprise. And look, these guys, if they're not in a bowl game or they're not, they leave their team, I mean, they're working on 40s now for 3 months. I don't really. So to me, it's not really about the time. It's just like, does this player, if you're athletic on the field, do you show your athleticism when it comes time at the combine? Or if you're not an athlete, do you not show that, right? And so that's what it is to me. And I think for the most part, most offensive linemen did what they had to do. So a couple guys were a little sloppy in the drills. Again, the drills you're prepared for, so I would prefer you weren't as sloppy in those drills, but that's what it is. It's a tough assignment to be there for a couple of days in that atmosphere when your job is on the line, essentially, right? You're interviewing for a job, and then all of a sudden, hey, go work out for us in sort of this cold, sterile, boring stadium.
I want to talk about the tackles in this draft specifically, and how the mock drafts are kind of like they're sorting them right now. So Spencer Fano came into the day appearing as like either the number 1 or number 2 tackle off the boards in pretty much every mock that I saw. And then the Freeland guy, what was his name? Yeah,
the Georgia kid, yeah.
The Georgia kid then like inserted himself in there for a lot of people above Fano, even though Spencer had an excellent combine, a remarkable combine. Was the most that he was the highest graded athlete among all offensive linemen, all offensive tackles at the combine, and yet still, and I know they're only mock drafts, and that's not what matters here, but then the conversation somehow changes, and Francis Mauigoa, who he just measured and interviewed, he didn't run any of the drills, run any of the timed events. He seems to have somehow elevated himself as well, and it's a head scratcher for me. Spencer's going to be fine. Caleb Loma's going to be fine. They're both going to have, I think, long, successful careers. But just the way that the offensive line conversation has developed in the last week and a half, you're a lot closer to it than I am.
Look, I think a couple things. We've known about Spencer Fano for years now, right? And so there's a familiarity with a player like that I think gets overlooked at times when it comes to these discussions, right? And so you've got a guy like, Freeling from Georgia who, his tape is inconsistent. There's a lot to like there, but you look at him run, his size, you're like, this guy, prototypical everything, right? And so then you maybe ignore some of the film things, right? Because, he's fresh on your mind after having good work. Like we know what Spencer's going to be, I think, in the NFL. And so I think there's some comfort in that. And I think it sometimes that leads to, I have a mock draft due tomorrow for Fox Sports. I was going to put, Freeling at 6 to the Browns. And I was talking to my buddy Brandon Thorne. He's got one out for Bleacher Report, and Brandon's really one of the better minds on the offensive line. He still has Fano going 6 overall. And we're talking about it, and it's like this sort of what I mentioned. Like Fano, I think, comes in and is a known quantity immediately, right? And Freeling he may be great, but he also might not be, right? And that's, I think, where the discussion is right now, is you look at a guy like that and you say, okay, well, again, Freeling, height, weight, athleticism, some of the tape pops. He probably profiles more as a long-term, like this is what it looks like as an all-pro offensive lineman, right? I'm not saying he's going to be, but that's what he looks like. Fano's size is not typically of that type of player, right, Sean? So like this is the draft complex, right? This is what we convince ourselves of because we have so much time to think about these things. I think that's why we're seeing the Georgia kid pop up a little bit. As far as Francis on Miami, he's going to, I think, end up a guard in the NFL, and he's probably gonna be a pretty good guard in the NFL. And that's what I debate like right now, where if you're like the Giants, for example, and people have them mocked to the Giants at 5, because you look at what the Giants need and probably not running back. They have obviously a really good defensive line room right now. They're probably going offensive line. They need some help on offensive line. Don't need a left tackle, though. And the question is, if you take Francis there, well, is he moving? Are you taking a guard 5 or a tackle at 5, right? I mean, to me, if you want to tackle, you probably would take Spencer, but if you want a guard, you probably take Francis, right? So I think these are all the reasons why he's not as high. But again, I'll tell you, the Bleacher Report one today had him going, 6 to the Browns. So there are people out there that still believe in Fano going very high, and there are guys like Nate Tice who have Lomu ahead of him, right? Like it just depends on which guys you like to look at for some of the mock drafts.
What do you make of the report that some teams had Spencer, doing center drills?
Yeah, I saw that.
Ball.
Yeah, look, I think that there's a new thing in the NFL. I don't know what new is the right word, but there's a philosophy when it comes to the offensive line now where, when we were sort of watching football and playing football, you just sort of put like your best offensive lineman at left tackle, right? And then you just sort of put your next best maybe at right tackle. And then you had found a good center. You found a couple of guards. You just sort of made it work, right? Now the philosophy has turned into, let's just get the 5 best guys and we'll put them in different positions. Which ones are our 5 best, right? And so now that's what teams – so if Fano can play center, it gives you a lot of options, right, to put your 5 best on the field, right? Like let's say you are – the Chargers, okay? Chargers, great example, Chargers, right? They have 2 tackles are coming back off injury that are really good, and they need a center in the worst way. If they miss on Linderbaum, who potentially could stay with the Ravens, like they need a center in the worst way. The center last year was the worst in the NFL. What if Fano could play center for them? Now, I'm sure you would like him to be drafted much higher, but I mean, like, so that just gives options, right? It gives you options in the NFL, and that's why they did it. I think that's why. His size, and we've seen guys sort of his size that play tackle that sort of have gone into center. And I think it's a smart, I don't think he's going to play center in the NFL, but just to let teams know you can do it, right? I can do it, guys. So I wasn't surprised to see that. And that means teams have thought about it. I think teams have thought about what I just said. It's like, well, we have a couple good tackles, but we really want our 5 best. And if he's one of the 5 best, let's get him on the field somewhere.
Jeff Schwartz is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things football. Right now, the NFL Draft Combine coming up. We're 37 minutes away from franchise tag deadline.
Yeah.
And, looks like Kenneth Walker will not be. And I don't know how players and locker rooms handle the franchise tag, because obviously it's a big 1-year salary, but it seems like depending on what age you are in your career, you don't want it if you're a player that is looking for more long-term security. So how should we be viewing these franchise tags that are or are not being exercised by teams?
It looks like Trey Hendrickson is not going to be tagged, by the way, the Bengals pass rusher. I think that no one actually likes it, player and team. And the reason why, for the player, obviously, you want that long-term security, right? You want that long-term contract. And look, the tag's a lot of money, right? For some guys, if, I think last year, Trey Smith, before he got paid, or maybe, he was going to look at it like $20 million a year. He was a 6th-round pick. Like that was 5 times what he had made in the NFL so far. So that's like, sign me up for that. He signed his tag the first day he could. Sign me up for that. A lot of, guys that want long-term deals that are 1st-round picks, they don't like tags. They want that security, right? I don't think teams like it either, Sean, because it makes players way more expensive. You cannot push any tag money to a different year, right? When you sign a contract, you can push some of that money to different parts of their contract. You can't add void years. It's a full 100% cap number, and teams don't want that, right? They want to be able to plan out years and years in advance. And if you have a guy on a 1-year deal, you can't plan out longer than 1 year for that guy. So I don't think anyone likes it. Obviously, it's a tool that's available to use because the CBA allows it, and I don't think we're going to get rid of it. Why would you bargain for something that affects five players a year? I don't think we're going to do that. But I don't think teams like it either. I know people think that's kind of odd when I say that, but they want these guys signed long term, man. They want to get their cap in order. They want to have projections for years and years to come. They want to know they're going to rely on these certain players. So in the end, it is what it is. I don't think teams or players like it very much.
Looks like Drew Dahlman is retiring.
I saw that. Yeah, shocking.
You like him as a player?
Yeah, he's good. He really solidified the Bears' offensive line last year. Was much, much better. They went and made those trades. Rather shocking retirement. I don't know, his injury status. Maybe there's a neck injury we don't know about, a head injury we don't know about. I mean, that obviously affects a lot of these guys, and we don't know those things until they retire. But he's only 27, right? The year he had, coming off, the year the Bears just had, and the excitement in that building with Ben Johnson, that was rather surprising. So, but I'll tell you what, man. NFL's hard to play, just like any pro sport. And if you're not into 100%, don't do it. And so I give these guys credit, man. They retire, they're done, they're over it, and just move on. So I appreciate when guys can do this.
27 years old, by the way, and retiring after
super young.
He had just signed a 3-year, $42 million contract during last offseason. I don't know how much of that he actually got, but
so he might have to give some money back if it's not a medical thing too. Like that's when you retire early, you got to give money back often because the prorated bonus and whatnot. So that part's curious actually.
He's a Stanford guy. Maybe he'll go be a Pokemon card dealer with this. Who's that? Blake Martinez, the linebacker.
Who does Pokemon cards?
Blake Martinez, the former linebacker.
Oh, is he a Stanford guy too?
Yeah.
I should know that. Conference champions.
Yeah,
they're in the ACC now.
I don't know. I wonder how that industry's doing post COVID shutdowns.
Pokemon?
Yeah, seems like they're killing it still.
Sure if you say so. My son might know. I think he's more into cards than I am.
James just pointed out. Yeah, the Pokemon was the sponsor of the Olympics.
Oh, man! I'll tell you what. It was a lot of fun. 8 a.m. Olympics, man. How much fun was that?
Amazing.
So it was great. I mean, for you it was 6, which is your time zone's weird, but everyone else it was awesome for.
Is there anyone that you watched in this combine or that you're excited as we go through this draft process that you think is just like he's your sleeper? This guy's going to be a great NFL player, and maybe isn't being talked about, or even if they are.
I don't know if I have a sleeper quite yet. It's interesting because, not many people do NFL like I cover NFL like I do, and then also cover college football. And I don't have time to study like all 7 rounds of the draft. I just don't. And I used to but it is hard, man. So it's hard to I'm prepped on like the first 40 guys of the draft. My work also doesn't require me to know much more than that for what I do anyways. So I don't have I used to know plus when we covered it was easier when you covered the Pac-12 every day, right? You had sort of a couple guys you watched and you watched all season long. But no one comes to mind at the moment of guys that are super sleepers right now. I mean, I think a couple guys, there's a North Dakota State quarterback that people seem to like is a lefty that he had a great combine. It was mentioned to me a couple weeks ago as sort of a watch out, could be a sort of a first round pick type of player. Weird quarterback year with Ty Simpson probably is the other first round pick. So a couple guys like that sort of pop up on the radar every now and then. I don't have great ones for you yet, buddy. I just wish I had more time to watch some of the later round guys. I just haven't done it yet.
Is Caleb Fano going to be a top? It's Caleb Lomo. Caleb Fano. Is Caleb Lomo going to be a top 40 guy?
Yeah. Again, Daniel Jeremiah put out a tweet. I feel like we see this tweet every year. There's only 7 guys that I would take in the first round as offensive lineman. I feel like that you just repeat that tweet. But I think that he's one of those guys that look at the end of the first round. I think even maybe earlier. There's a lot of choices I think for him. This draft is interesting because there's really there's a couple super premium players, right? You look at Mendoza and the Ohio State, all the Ohio State players. Both guys on defense: Tate, Love, Bain, Bailey. Those are probably like that. That's it, man. And so you have a lot of choices. in this draft. There'd be a lot of teams that drafting guys that maybe you didn't think they were going to draft, or they you didn't have your eye on, because they're going to look at their draft board and there'll be grades all over the place, right? One team's going to have a high second on a guy, one guy's going to have a low first on a guy. Like, it's just going to be what I think, to me, that's be that type of draft. So I certainly think he'll be up there because of maybe the lack of total tackles in this draft, but it wouldn't surprise me if he went 12 or 27. That's the type of draft it feels like.
All right, last thing before I let you go.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice in actual game play when a guy had particularly long arms or short arms when you were trying to block him?
I mean, off the top of my head, no, but I'm sure I absolutely felt that in a game. Sure, yes. You could tell a difference. There's a reason why people care about it.
If you're Reuben Bain, does your arm length actually matter?
I mean, it's hard to say that it doesn't matter, but he's overcome that because of his style of play, right? His explosiveness, his strength, his ability to bend, his agility. But I mean, if you are going against Lane Johnson, who has arms down to his knees, or it's a problem. If you can't get by Lane, what are you going to do to him? If you can't get in his chest before he gets in your chest, that's why the arm length matters. But again, if you're quick enough, if you can overcome it, I mean, it's not a problem. But you're going to run into some guys, and you're just going to be like, I just can't get by this guy, and that's where the arms are an issue. But his film hasn't shown that to be that big of a problem. So I to me, it would not worry me, unless, of course, again, I go back to the historical comp thing, right? Historically speaking, his arms would be the shortest of anyone to ever have a great career at that position. Like, that's the thing, right? So if you are a team that subscribes to the idea that we have to draft guys that sort of fit into this athletic profile because we have 50 years of data on these guys, you would have to really take a risk on drafting a guy like Bain if he doesn't fit the athletic profile. I mean, again, he would be the first of a guy of his arm length, correct, and his size to be good. That's a pretty tough ask if you're in that draft room and you have the 8th pick overall, and you're like, do we take the guy that would be the outlier because we think he's that good, or do we take a more known commodity at that position, or someone else? Like, those are real discussions that GMs have, and I think they're fair discussions to have because, again, the outlier part, drafting outliers, man, in the first round is tough business, and so I think it's going to affect some teams. I think some teams aren't going to care, but if we look back and say to ourselves, well, that was kind of an overdraft, that would be the reason why.
That's Jeff Schwartz. Jeff, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate you, man.
Talk to you next week, buddy. Take care.
36-inch arms is about as long as it gets in the NFL. And if you have 31-inch arms, that is a big difference. Quick break here, and then Matt Farrell, the CEO of U.S. Figure Skating, joins us on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in Matt Farrell, CEO, U.S. Figure Skating, ahead of the U.S. Synchronized Skating Championships this week at the Maverick Center, starting tomorrow, going through the 7th. Matt Farrell, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, doing great. Great to be here.
So Utah hosting this event for the first time, is that correct?
It is, and it probably bears a little bit of explanation of what the event is, but synchronized skating is like this blend of certainly ice skating and marching band with like the atmosphere of a cheer competition, kind of all into one.
Oh, wow.
And this is the U.S. Championships here at the Maverick Center this weekend.
Okay, so with that description, give me a sense, is it uniform how many young men or women are on the ice at a certain time? Like, what's the give me like the full breakdown of what we're going to see visually.
So in most cases, it's either 12 to 16 athletes on the floor or on the ice, and it can be a mix of women and men. It leans a little more female athletes. And they're skating in formations and doing different maneuvers. It's very intricate, based on music. And so you'll see kind of skaters going in and out of each other, and it's a choreographed routine on ice.
And is this judged similarly to the Olympic events that we all just I'm sure you're fully aware of this cycle. Every 4 years, we all become big-time experts on figure skating for like a 2-week period. And then we kind of go back to our regular habits. And then 4 years later, we're once again big-time experts. Is it the same judges or the same type of judging criteria?
Similar in concept. And, you find yourself incorporating the word twizzle into your conversations daily, which you didn't normally do. But similar in concept. It's obviously about the precision on the ice, the synchronicity, and kind of really just how anywhere the 12 to 16 athletes move as one.
Well, we spent a lot of time, as much as I joke, we did spend a lot of time during the Winter Olympics focusing on sports that we don't typically talk about on a regular sports talk radio show, right? Yeah. Figure skating being one of those. And we come off a hockey gold medal and all this, and especially here in Utah, we're like, okay, what is this going to do for the growth of these sports? We see what Alyssa Liu with her success, and the sort of pop culture phenomenon that Jack Hughes is with the broken teeth and the gold medal. And I imagine there's an opportunity here for figure skating with the popularity and the gold medal success that we just had in these games. So how do you capitalize on that, Matt?
Yeah, it's a great question. Everything from there's something really, really special about a female Olympic champion in the United States. And we hadn't had it since Salt Lake, the games in 2002 with Sarah Hughes. So, and it creates this demand. It creates this interest in the sport. We might call it a halo effect of what we're seeing is just absolute phones ringing off the hook at learn to skate sessions, skating rinks, of people wanting to actually try the sport and introduce it. And so some Olympic sports you can see from a membership standpoint growth from 5% to 10%. The Olympic Games can really be a huge catalyst in terms of just driving interest in the sport. And, something like skating is a great one because you can do it for the rest of your life. And whether you want to be the next Alyssa Liu is not the point, but it has this real, gold medal to grassroots type of impact in communities. And we're seeing clubs across the country from Utah to Albuquerque saying, my gosh, we can't keep up with the demand of the calls right now.
Pretty cool. With respect to the Synchronized Skating Championships this week at the Maverick Center, tickets available. Go to the Maverick Center website. We're talking about that grassroots growth, right? You come off of – I have 3 daughters, okay? So we come off of watching the Olympics together, and now they're like, hey, Dad, we should go skating. Why don't you let us go skating? Let's take us skating. All right, cool. And then, there's figure skating, there's hockey, there's whatever. And then maybe they see an event like this. Are the funnels to individual figure skating or pair skating and these synchronized skatings in a large team format, are they similar funnels? These people come from the same academy, schools, coaches? Is there crossover between the athletes? Because I think some of us are familiar with the figure skating that we see on Olympic television, less so with the synchronized skating you're talking about. Are they the same people doing these things?
You almost self-select a little bit in ways, and the analogy I always use is like it's the Harry Potter sorting hat of what's the best path in the sport for me, and the Olympics in an odd way can actually cloud things because not every kid who's 6, 7, 8 years old wants or even thinks about being the next Olympic champion. They want to be on a team and on the ice with their friends. Mm-hmm. And that's where a synchronized skating is awesome. And so that does tend to be a different mindset and a different person that might say, I want to be part of a team with my friends and do that all the way through my high school and college years, as opposed to, I'm driven to be the next Dorothy Hamill, Peggy Fleming, Alyssa Liu, Christy Yamaguchi. And so it's just an outlet for different people who want different things in sports, because we don't always want to be the next Olympic champion. Sometimes it's really about community and team.
Some of us realize when we're watching those Olympic skaters that it's beautiful and graceful and incredible, and that we are not ever capable and never were capable of such things.
Well, not only that, and then the pressure of it. You think about it like every other sport, whether you're swimming or wrestling or even playing golf, there's somebody else out there with you in many ways. Yes, golf's an individual sport, but the caddies out there, your opponents are out there. Skating is just this unique, you are out there performing completely alone, and it just adds to the pressure of the event and kind of the excitement of the event. And then you have to be artistic as you're being athletic. So it's really this unique mix.
And by the way, you get this big Super Bowl event every 4 years instead of every year, and you got to go back to the drawing board if it doesn't go all that well. It's incredible what Olympic athletes in every sport go through. Your perception of when there's these little, tabloid things, the controversy around judging, or there's the rumor mill buzzing around about certain pairings and why those pairings are put together and how they overcome our U.S. pair that deserves this gold medal, and they've only been together for 1 year instead of 20 years, and how did they leapfrog us and all that stuff. I mean, it's a tension, and there's always that adage of there's no such thing as bad publicity, but for U.S. figure skating, when the Olympic cycle brings us all to the forefront for the average sports fan, you're the CEO of U.S. figure skating. This is your life every day. So what do you think of those moments?
At the end of the day, you certainly want a fair competition. And with any sport that has a degree of subjectivity to it, there's always going to be some argument to it. And so I think figure skating certainly has that spotlight on it. But I often tell people, we're still arguing about pass interference calls from last college football season. There's subjectivity or what's a foul in the NBA. There's subjectivity to every sport. Maybe that's a little more magnified to determine the final outcome in a figure skating. But that's part of the human element of sports. And that's just part of the culture of who we are. And so you really have to just own and embrace that. And so are there times where you feel like, okay, maybe some decision was a little bit farther of an outlier in what I would consider fair versus what you would consider fair? And I think you come to an acceptance that is part of the sport and part of the culture of the sport. But at the end of the day, you graciously accept the results, whether they go your way or not. And our athletes in Milan in particular, I think, were just awesome about that when we had some highs and lows.
Are you already laying groundwork, projecting out? Is there anything being done in preparation for Utah 2034? It's 8 years away, but I imagine in your world that comes around quicker than we think.
100%. I mean, one is synchronized skating, which you'll see at the Maverick Center. We're being very open and transparent that we think that should be an incredible sport on the Olympic program in the future, and certainly hope by Utah. But Utah, to me, obviously hosted in 2002, will host in 34. We're of the belief that Utah will host again in 16 or 20 years after that. And so U.S. figure skating is really starting to focus on what can we do to build grassroots and youth skating in Utah? How can we make our skating clubs stronger? How can we bring in more elite coaching into Utah? And for lack of a better word, really invest in Utah and make it a hub for skating activity, because we just think this is going to really be a tentpole state and market to build long past, when I hang up my skates on this job.
Well, we appreciate you jumping on today and answering our questions. The U.S. Synchronized Skating Championships this week, starting tomorrow at the Maverick Center. Tickets are available for all 4 days. It goes Wednesday through Saturday, but they are going fast. So go to the eventsticketcenter.com/Maverick Center and get those tickets. Matt, thanks so much for your time.
Oh, you bet. I appreciate it, and I'll make one plug. There's the Starlit Blades from Salt Lake that are in the novice division on Friday, so you can see some Utah flavor this weekend as well.
All right, so if you're in for the local flavor, Friday is your day. Again, tickets available through the Maverick Center website. Thanks again, Matt.
Hey, appreciate talking to you.
Matt Farrell, CEO of U.S. Figure Skating, Synchronized Skating Championships. And, hey, this is I like when we get the chance to hear about things that are not really always on our radar. This is kind of a big deal. Like, I thought these tickets would be a little bit easier to get. They're available, but the selection is getting thinner and thinner. So 10 a.m. tomorrow, 9 a.m. Thursday, 9:30 a.m. Friday, 7:45 a.m. the start time on Saturday. Get out to the Maverick Center for the U.S. Synchronized Skating Championships. Little crosstalk coming your way next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. I would be remiss if I did not remind all of you out there that the early signups are open right now for our ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM $1 Million Bracket Challenge. You can sign up by going to ESPN700sports.com. Get yourself ready for the madness. Brought to you by Big Willie's, Game Day Men's Health, Intermountain Bobcat, Budweiser International Sportsman's Expo, and the Utah RV Super Show. Time now for some crosstalk with Spence Checketts of The Drive, which comes next. Crosstalk is brought to you by our friends at Advanced Window Products. If you want replacement windows that are installed, sold, measured, warranted, manufactured, all here in Utah, Advanced Window Products, advancedwindows.com or 801-850-9100, and you get $2,500 off 10 windows or more if you mention ESPN 700. Hi, Spence.
Hello, Sean. Did you make it to the Jazz basketball game last night?
No.
Your boy went. You thought I was lying. Okay,
We don't
I was
have
there.
proof.
No, I have pictures on the phone. It was a big night. Jackson Dart, Dwayne Wade, me. Big night.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, big night for everyone in the building. Turned out to be a pretty fun basketball game. I'm not going to lie.
Tell me, Jay Dart's in town? It's good to hear.
Jay Dart was in town, and he was sitting next to my guy Rye. A couple guys in their 40s just wearing hat backwards, crushing life.
Okay.
And you couldn't tell who it was because he was dressed like Macklemore. He had this big hoodie. His hood was covering his head, and he had big old sunglasses. So we're sitting on the other end and debating who is sitting next to my guy Rye. Again,
Yeah.
a couple guys, 40s, backwards hat.
Same.
We all just guessed random white rappers because you couldn't tell it was Jackson Dart. At one point, I'm seriously like, I think that might be Macklemore. I have no idea who that is. But big night at the stadium.
Love me some Macklemore, by the way.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Huh. Hot take.
When's the last time we heard from him? Where's he at?
2002 or
Macklemore,
something.
where are you?
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Bark twice if you're in Milwaukee.
Did you ever? I swear only 5 people on the planet ever watched this show. Do you ever recall the White Rapper show on VH1?
Nope.
It was unbelievable. And the weirdest thing is, like, you can't really find footage of it. And it was only one season, and me and my buddy Brandon, like, stumbled upon it one night. And we're like, this is phenomenal. White dudes trying to rap, didn't go very well. And the judges were all, like African-American rappers. All they did was clown them.
Just like established, right? It's
Yes.
It's like the Wu-Tang Clan judging a bunch of white guys.
100%. And all they did was mock them, and it was so funny. I think they only did one season.
Awesome.
I have a weird thing for, like, bad movies and bad television. Fascinated by it.
Everyone has their guilty pleasure television shows.
Yeah.
VH1 provided a lot of good ones back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The,
Flavor of Love.
Yeah, the Flavor Flav one. Didn't they have the Osbourne show, too?
Did they? I don't know.
Keeping Up with the Osbournes or whatever? Meet the
Was that
Osbournes?
VH1? I don't know if it's VH1 or it's MTV or it's E or True TV or whatever. I know that's a lie. I know it's on True TV. It's my guys, the Impractical Jokers.
Love the Impractical Jokers. Not aging all that well. Canceled here or there for some deviant behavior. But, yeah.
I didn't even know about that.
You didn't?
No.
We actually had the guy on the show who was canceled. He was.
Was it Joe?
It was Joe.
Is that why he left?
Of course it was Joe, right? Like, that was pretty easy to see. No, Joe was coming into town to do stand-up. And so they reached out to see if we could interview him. And we did. And, like, the next week, it turned out he's, like, DMing, like, 15-year-old girls. So.
We had Sal not just a couple of months ago.
Okay.
And he did not enjoy our interview at all.
Really?
I'm a big fan. I love the Impractical Jokers.
Yeah.
I think Sal's hilarious.
Yeah.
And he just was not, like, he definitely didn't have fun.
That's unfortunate because he seems like a jovial, happy fellow.
Yeah.
And he's got a really good podcast.
Yeah, I was like, but the difference between doing Impractical Jokers and stand-up is like, well, I've actually been doing stand-up for like 20 years.
Okay, dude.
I'm like, nobody knows you for that, Sal.
Yeah. Huh. There's.
I like to write books. No one knows that about me. Shut it.
Yeah, there's something, and I'm a huge stand-up comedy fan, but there's something about the need to establish credibility with those guys. Like, I started when I was 11 in my uncle's garage, and I was grinding until anyone knew. No, calm down, Sal. You're on the Impractical Jokers.
That's what we know you for. That's what we know you for, Sal. Way to ruin my decade-long fandom.
It is a really. I'm trying to think. The best one of all time can I say this on air? I think it was Sal who lost the challenge, and he was forced to watch some adult movies in a coffee shop with the sound on the computer.
No.
Oh, it is so painful, yet just so funny. So, yeah, I think it was Sal in the middle of a coffee shop, opens up the laptop, it is crowded, and all you hear are sounds of adults doing adult things and people begging him to turn it off, but he couldn't. He just had to sit there for like 5 minutes.
They had some really good punishments. I think Q married Sal's mom at one point as one of the punishments.
See, one of the great things about that show, I don't know if you consumed it the same way I did. I just pictured doing that with my friends.
Of course.
And how much fun that would be.
Yeah, and exactly like your high school buddies that you would do that show with or
Right,
whatever.
right,
Yeah,
right.
great stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
What a life.
What a life. Good luck, Joe. Hang in there, buddy.
Apparently not. Good luck.
I mean, find your way back. I don't really know what to say about that.
Yeah, we don't know.
It's been canceled.
We don't know. Franchise tag, 2 minutes from now is the deadline.
Trey Hendrickson not having the tag placed upon him.
I always want to know why players like Trey are not regarded the same way as people that are in his same position, that perform the same level of productive football, right?
Yeah.
It's such a strange thing, and it happens in all pro sports, right? Where you've got one guy there's baseball on right now. Like, there's one guy who hits like 303 and another guy who hits like 297. And the 303 guy, everyone's just like, I love you. And the 297 guy, they're just like, let him go.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah, especially on that defense, right? Like Cincinnati's defense, not awesome.
I think part of that might be they're just like, even with Trey, we're really bad. So we might as well just tear this thing down to the studs. But if that's the case, you should have gotten value out of Trey.
Yeah.
You should have traded him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm no expert in this field, but he seems like a beast to me. Like every time I watch him play, it stands out. So if they're not going to bring him back, certainly that's somebody that have a lot of market value, I would imagine. But yeah, Cincinnati's defense is so atrocious. The one decent defensive player you have, you might want to lock him up. And then Kenneth Walker is walking, right? Did I see that?
That's right.
Huh. Super Bowl MVP. We'll see. Because Charbonnet, was it an ACL for Charbonnet to close the year?
Right.
I think it was an ACL. Yeah. I would imagine they would want to bring him back.
Myles Garrett, in the last 5 seasons, 83 sacks. TJ Watt, 73.5 sacks. Trey Hendrickson, 70.5 sacks.
Yeah.
Cleveland will not let Myles Garrett go no matter what.
Nor should they, yeah.
He's like, I want out of here. They're like, no. Here's $50 million a year. TJ Watt.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is like, we'll name the stadium after you. We're getting
For
rid
sure.
of Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
We're not going to get rid of you. Cincinnati, third best pass rusher in the league over that time span. I don't get it.
It's odd. Yeah, it's really weird. I've always wondered why they didn't just lock him up. I do think you make a good point, though, with all the holes they have. Maybe they just want to spread the cash out to fill a couple of different spots. Because they're in, like, Colts ruining Andrew Luck danger with Joe Burrow. I mean, you've got to take advantage of, like, the next 3 or 4 years before he starts to go in the other direction, I would imagine.
That's going to be the Bengals are going to be a fascinating case study on when you have draft assets, whether you should use them on offensive linemen to help your quarterback or wide receivers to help your quarterback.
Yeah.
Because they said wide receiver, and their offensive line has been bad.
Yeah.
And their trenches, period, have been bad. So
The Cardinals are releasing Kyler Murray.
not a fan.
Of Kyler?
Yeah.
Well, as a Jets fan, I'm just get somebody that can kind of play that position.
Can I give you a spoiler alert?
Please do.
It doesn't matter who you get.
I know.
It's not going to work.
You know, you don't have to rub it in, dude.
I'm just letting you know.
I want you to know that I was a Niners fan before you were, because I'm older than you are.
Well, then I lose all respect because you jumped ship.
I moved. You had to support the local team.
I don't live in San Francisco, Spence.
You did for a minute, Sean.
After I had been a fan for 20 years already.
Can I hit you with a line from the White Rapper show that my buddy just sent me because he's listening right now?
Okay.
I can't remember. I think this was the guy who won the contest. I want to say he was from Detroit, and his final bar to win the White Rapper show, I got so much cash I can't even bend wallets. I'll play D, take the money, and leave like Ben Wallace. I'm telling you, this was unbelievable television. It was unbelievable television. I can't remember the guy's name.
Okay.
Wanted so badly for that thing to last.
The
multiple
VH1
seasons.
archives. We're gonna have to go take a deep dive.
Google search White Rapper Show.
That'll be some summer radio. We'll go.
Yeah.
We'll just dig up the best VH1 from the early 2000s.
Yeah. But Jackson Dart was definitely dressed like Snow, the old school white rapper, last night at Macklemore. I don't know a ton of white rappers. It's Eminem, Macklemore, Snow, Vanilla Ice. That's probably the end of my list.
Mac Miller was one, right?
Shout out Mac Miller, and who's
R.I.P.
actually very talented. That's a good pull, yeah.
Okay.
Nice sweater, Sean.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the drive. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do it again tomorrow on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.